record. All right, welcome back to the channel, everyone, to another episode of the Trainer Profiles here at the Old Card Shop. Thanks again for coming. We have a special guest and a special episode today. This is our second episode, but we definitely want to come in hard with this one because we got EchoBase Collectables here on the channel with us. So I want to say welcome, Echo, and I want to say, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us who you are, where we can find you on social media, in case anyone here doesn't already know you. But thanks so much for coming on.
Oh, no worries. Thanks, Card Shop. Thanks for having me on. First and foremost, thank you so much for having me on. Awesome to come on and talk with you. I've been wanting to do this for a while, so this will definitely be fun. And yeah, for those of you that don't know me, my handle is EchoBase Collectables. That's my channel. You can find me on YouTube, Collectables with an A, because I've had a lot of people try and hit up the one with the I, and that's a random card shop in Florida that is not me. So it's EchoBase Collectables. You can call me Joe. That's actually, I don't mind. It's my first name. My Instagram's the same thing, EchoBase Collectables. My eBay store is EchoBase Collectables. My website, and then my whatnot is just EchoBase, because they limit you.
It's good to make that distinction though, because I actually was looking you up, and the I spelled collectibles with the I was not pulling up. So it's funny that there's that distinction. You know, you can get both. So good to have you on though. Thanks a lot, man.
No worries. This is gonna be fun.
So yeah, so tonight what we're going to talk about is going to be mostly we're going to talk about collecting and the journey that we all go on in this collecting kind of Pokemon journey that we take here in the hobby. I think there's a lot that is talked about when it comes to the market and a lot of the current events, but this series is going to be much more of a sort of a fun series. I'd like to sort of focus more on the individual trainers. So Echo, I'm gonna have a couple of questions here that I'd like to ask you throughout the stream, and we're just kind of go through it that way. So if you see me, you know, looking at my phone here, I'm just going to be referring to the couple of the questions. I try not to be rude here for you. But since you're here on the channel, I think one of the ways I'd like to start off these little streams is by asking every one of our guests how you got into the hobby, or what got you into the hobby, I should say, because that's something that I think is really different for everyone. I think a lot of us have a lot of the same origin stories, but they're all very different, and it's very important about what connects us to the hobby. So I'd really love to hear from you about what got you into the hobby, or where your induction, or what really got you into Pokemon. Where are some of those memories for you at? So let's start off there.
All right. Well, so I am 38 years old. So I'm older than most people that are in the hobby, I would say, more older than your average person. And if anyone's actually seen any of my interviews or any of my channel, I've told the story a couple of times, but I love telling it, so I have no problem telling it again. My experience with the hobby can pretty much be broken up into two segments. So I was extremely heavily involved, and I'll go into it in details in a sec, from the beginning, from 1998 all the way through to about 2012, 2014 era, right when Heart Gold Soul Silver came out, the card set, not the video game, obviously. And then I exited, and I'll go into why I exited the hobby for a few years. And I recently just got back in. So I took about a 6-year hiatus from the hobby. But rewinding a little bit, what got me into it initially? So when I got into the hobby, I was a freshman in high school, which is, I know,
that's
right?
Actually really surprising to hear, because a lot of the people I think from back in that time probably would say they got in a little younger. I know that myself, I got in probably 8 or 9 years old.
That's the story I hear from most people. Exactly. Yeah. So I was a little bit older than your average person when I got into it. And it was a little bit daunting initially. It was not seen as a popular, it was, it was a kid's thing. It was not cool. It was not cool at all to get into Pokemon. So in high school, I was a football player and I was a wrestler. So
I wrestled as well. So
awesome. There we go. Cool. So I ended up sophomore year. I was on varsity for football, and wrestling, I was a captain. And I eventually made captain of football too. But I say that it's relevant to this discussion because for two reasons. One, I didn't, my personal core group of friends, I'm also a little bit of an introvert. So although I'm a wrestler, I wouldn't say popular in high school, but people knew who I was because I was a captain of the sports teams, right? But I was friendly with my teammates, but I was never really close. I was never really close with a lot of people in high school because my interests stemming from my childhood were, Transformers, He-Man, G.I. Joe, and then eventually into anime. I really liked Dragon Ball Z growing up, and I liked video games. I was not. I was a collector from heart from a childhood, and I know we'll get into that a little bit.
Can I ask you where you grew up at? What town you grew up at, or what state?
New Jersey, South Jersey.
Okay, so South Jersey. And did you have a local card shop in your area at that time that you remember?
Not that I had any idea about. I'll get into that. So
that's why I was thinking. Yep, I figured.
My introduction to the Pokemon was not through a card shop at all. So I remember walking through the mall, and popping into like an EB Games, or which is like a GameStop.
Mm-hmm. Do those still exist, by the way? They're not out here on the West Coast.
GameStop does. EB Games does not.
Yeah. So GameStop, but not EB, right? Yeah.
Right. They're gone.
They used to sell the best Pokemon cards there. I
know they were sick.
Like
I know.
Plastic packs that they'd have on the wall.
Yeah.
They'd be super overpriced, but they'd have the coolest like old school Pokemon packs.
Mm-hmm. They did. Yeah. They were really cool. So I remember going in and I saw the Prima, how you pronounce it, Prima Strategy Guide.
Yep.
And I remember picking that up and flipping through it. Now, some of my favorite games up until that point, like I really liked Super Mario. I really loved Legend of Zelda.
Such a good game.
Yeah. Oh, such a good
game. The original Nintendo one, right?
Yes,
and then top down.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then Link to the Past was my favorite Zelda. The Link to the Past for the SNES.
Okay. Yeah. I never played a lot of that one, but a cousin who played it. It was so hard that I couldn't get into it.
Oh, that one was good. Yeah. That one had great replayability. And I didn't have a lot of games for my systems growing up. So that was one that I had that I got a lot of replayability out of. And as anyone obviously that's played Red and Blue, it has a very Zelda feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember picking up the Prima Strategy Guide. And I remember flipping through it. And I was just like, this looks a lot like Zelda. And then there's the Pokédex and there's all these different creatures. And then, you learn that you can stat them up, like you can stat up like in Final Fantasy and that sort of stuff. And that hooked me. So I was like,
it's so much of a combination. I never thought of that before. You're so right about that. It's like Zelda and Final Fantasy and like these cool little creatures that people are leveling up and like, man, you're onto something, or they're onto something, I guess. But
right.
I never picked up on that.
So I remember I picked up Red. I got Red for Christmas, and I played the piss out of it. Sorry, excuse me. I played the heck out of it. I think at the time, the last check after I finally actually put it down. I think I must have had like 450 hours into Red, like a lot of time. I remember I got all 151, including missing number. I statted them all up to level 100. I played through it.
Did you have the Game Shark then? So since you
had the Game Shark
in order to get the rare candy and stuff, you had to have
Yep. But I played the Pokédex without the Game Shark. I had. So here's the other thing. I didn't have, like I said, I didn't have a ton of up until this point. I was an only child growing up, and I grew up in an area that didn't have a lot of I couldn't walk to friends' houses very, very much. So I was a loner. So I actually bought 2 Game Boys and a link cable and Red and Blue so I could trade with myself to complete
You're
the Pokédex.
Dedicated.
I wanted that Pokédex, dude. I was like, I gotta get it, right? So how I got into the card game. I remember where I used to go out to dinner with my parents, there was a baseball card shop next door. Mm-hmm. And I remember popping in once. I'd be like, yo, Dad, I'm going to go check out baseball, because I used to collect baseball cards too. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I'm going to go in the card shop before I went to the restaurant. So I would go in there, and I saw that they had Pokemon cards. And I was like, oh, these are cool. Like, these are like little character cards of the game that I'm already playing. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, let me pick up a couple packs of these. And I remember there was a guy standing there the first night I went in, and he was just, and I'll never forget the price points. The price points are hilarious. I'll never forget the price points. So base set first edition was $20 a pack. Base set, because this was right when it came out. So right. everything was elevated, because even back, like, this was, card shops could sell stuff at a premium. Mm-hmm. Base set was $10 a pack. Base set unlimited was $10 a pack.
That's pricey. It
is pricey.
Yeah.
And I remember this guy was standing there ripping base set packs until he got a Zapdos, because his kid was the last card he needed. And I'm just sitting there watching this guy 10, 20, 30, 40 ripping packs. He must have ripped a box and a half that night. And I was just standing there watching this guy rip these packs. And I was like, this guy just dropped like $200. Like,
he had the bug. He had the bug.
He got that last card he needed. And then I remember, and I liked Zapdos at the time. So I was like, oh, can I buy that card from you? And I remember his reaction. He was like, are you kidding me? I just pulled a Zapdos. Like, it was like I don't know, a gold bar or something. And I had no idea what this guy's.
Get out of here,
I was
kid.
like, all right. I'm like, oh, I don't know. I like Zapdos. I was like, I don't know. I just want the card.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, well, I had like $20 on me. I bought 2 packs and I opened a first pack I ever opened. I got a Charizard.
Oh my gosh. I still
pack.
to this day, I don't think I've ever like I had to con my little cousin. I've told it the story.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Many times. I had to
It's
con
funny.
her out of my Charizard. So
With the Pikachu,
that's awesome.
You're
That
such
is
a
so
con
cool,
artist.
dude. And so you were probably hooked after. You were probably like, is this
Yep.
is this good? Is new high score? Like what is
the card shop owner offered to buy for me for $250 on the spot.
Wow. So
and I didn't sell it.
And that was a lot of money.
It was a lot of money back then. I was like,
adults would have told you like, oh, those cards aren't worth anything. But then you could have shown them the Charizard and been like, yeah, oh yeah.
So I remember, and then Jungle and Fossil came out, and this card. So every time I went to dinner, I'd go back in the card shop to see what else they had, and then he always had the Japanese packs too. And I remember your last interview, I really wanted to get into that because I love the Japanese cards from the start. I love them from the start. I always love the Japanese cards. I'll get into it a little bit more. I'm a hardcore completist. So it got to the point where I had to have 1-to-1 of everything. I had to have the English and the Japanese, because it was.
So from the get-go, you were
I wanted
like
one of everything.
Like that. Yeah.
Yep. And so this is how I operated for a while. I would buy the cards, I'd binder them, I'd collect them, but I had no idea how to play the card game. And this lasted for, I don't know, say half a year.
Interesting. So you just collected for like a whole half a year. That's funny because we'll get into this in the interview, but I think of you as more of a player than a collector. Well, not more of, but very much so. Like
you're not wrong.
Player.
Yeah. So, I had all these cards, and I knew that it was a card game, but I never played a trading card game until Pokemon. So I had some Magic the Gathering cards, but again, no one played. I didn't know how to play the game, but I had
that was the only one. It was only Magic was the only one at the time.
No, there were others. What
others were out at Pokemon time?
BattleTech, because I used to buy BattleTech cards too. There was a BattleTech card game because again, I liked Mech Warrior. It was one of my favorite games at the time. Mech Warrior 3 Mercenaries, Mech Warrior 4 was out, and I bought the cards because I liked. So one of my other hobbies is I always collected Transformers. So I like big robots.
Yeah. So that makes sense with the mech and that's cool.
But I remember that was a card game. Sailor Moon was out at the time too, which was another really cool card game.
I've seen those card games. I've seen that. Those old vintage booster boxes. I've actually seen them up in auctions and stuff. That's funny.
There were a couple card games out at the time.
Okay. So I was under the impression that at that time there was a boom, but it didn't happen until sort of later on in the 90s.
It may have been 99 at this point. I get the early years confused a little bit because eventually what happened is that I bought the 2-player starter set with the CD-ROM. And
that was how I started. Yeah.
Yep. That's how I started. So I didn't need anybody else to play. So I used to also be in chess club in high school. So I was really good at soloing. So what happened was I learned how to play through the CD-ROM. And I'm like, okay, I have all these cards. So I used to make my own decks. And I used to play against myself until I got a good idea of what I thought anyway, of how to play. So I still didn't have a card because I'm still freshman-ish, sophomore-ish at this point in high school. So I remember I looked it up online, AOL dial-up, where the Pokemon leagues were. And there was one at a Toys R Us. So I remember asking my mom, hey, it was a Saturday. Can you drive me to Toys R Us for this Pokemon League? And she's like, what? You want me to drop you off at Toys R Us and come back 4 hours later? And I was like,
what are you going to do?
She's like, what are you going to do? I was like, well, it's this card game and it's really cool. And I want to go. I want to try. So anyway, I got dropped off. It was this little storeroom in the back of this Toys R Us. There was like maybe room for like 4 tables with like 4 people each. And the rest people were like sitting on the floor or standing. Like there were like 35, 40 people crammed in this room that maybe was supposed to be meant for like 10. But it was like, you couldn't even.
It's about like card stores in the 90s. That's about right. I had a card store in my local shop. So
yeah.
I was very lucky with that, but that exactly is what it sounded like. A bunch of fold out tables.
Yeah.
Too many people crammed in there.
Too many people. This is a tiny room. Yeah. And I remember the first day I went, there was a lot of little kids, very few people my age or older, a lot of little kids. But I remember sitting down and playing and getting my ass handed to me by a haymaker deck.
Oh man, that was my favorite.
I got destroyed. I had this janky deck that I came up with. I was playing my Charizard.
You're trying to evolve, I was just like second stage,
right? And I'm like,
little
oh
combos
my God.
and
Dude, I took it so personally. I was like, because I'm a very competitive person too, from sports and everything. I'm a very
Well, yeah,
competitive person.
you're in sports.
Yep,
So
yep.
you have that competitor's
So that's all it took. I went home, I went online, and I started the research, like actually like get on websites. I was on Pokemon Zeo. I was on Poke Beach back when it started. The Poke Gym. I'll get into that later, but I was huge on Poke Gym too. And this is where I started doing.
So I guess some of those existed back then. I didn't know all of those sites were still around. That's crazy. So which are the ones that are still around today that you remember using back then?
Poke Beach and Poke Gym.
Wow,
Poke Gym's
nice.
still around a little bit, but it's heavily reduced because of most of the people from Poke Gym migrated to Burbank on Facebook. So that's kind of the new iteration of Poke Gym.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that was new to me when I got back into it. The whole Facebook thing was all new to me.
Yeah, and that makes sense. So that's where a lot of those groups kind of went, is onto Facebook and into Discords.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I went back to the Toys R Us and I started to make more and more friends. And I never really got a good core group of there was 6 of us. Long story short, I'll get those friends I carried with me from the time I was 14 up until I was 28, 29.
Now, did they go to the same school as you, or were they friends from another? See, I had card friends too, but they didn't go to my same school either. And my school banned cards. Did your school ban trading cards?
I don't know. I never brought them to school.
Oh, okay. So we were in elementary when I was in it, and so we were a little younger than when you were. So I'm sure with the high schoolers is a little bit different. You didn't have kids totally from each other and scamming.
No, no one even brought them. It wasn't even a thing. I didn't even talk about it in high school.
Okay, that makes sense.
Nobody really knew that I played or did anything it was almost like 2 separate worlds to me. So yeah, Monday through Friday, I do whatever I did Monday through Friday. Doesn't really matter that much. Saturday was the only day I could go that I didn't have, because we played Friday night football. So Saturday I could go to Pokemon League. So I would go, I'd have my mom drop me off or my dad every Saturday.
I love Saturdays. They were the best. I remember those Saturdays.
Yep. Now, eventually, we moved, the Toys R Us League shut down. We moved the league. A Wizards of the Coast store opened in the mall.
Oh, nice.
Dude, it was sick. An actual, back in the day, Wizards had stores. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yep. In the Morristown Mall in New Jersey. If anyone's there, shout out.
Wow.
Yep. And that league lasted until, my God. I think the store the store went out of the mall. They shut the store down right around the time that Wizards lost the license to, which I'll get into a little bit more, because I was actually pretty heavily I know a lot about that.
So that's a really good story. I feel like Wizards losing their rights or the licensing or having to fight for it's something that's talked a lot about, but I don't know a lot of the details as much as what I've heard from hearsay. So I'd love to get into a little bit
of what
you know about
I know a lot about it. I know
you were around and you were old enough to sort of know about what was going on.
Not only that, but I knew a lot of the higher ups at both Wizards and Nintendo. So I'll get into it.
We're gonna have to get into that then.
We will. So me and my group of friends were like, oh shit, where are we going to go with our league? We have to go somewhere, because we were all the gym leaders by this point. We ran the league. So we found I got hooked up with, and I don't remember exactly how it happened. But yep, the original Wizards League badges. Nice. Yep.
Got all of them tucked away here somewhere, but I just have one on my shelf. Yeah, I love those things.
Cool, man. Those are awesome. We got hooked up with Mike Martin. And if anyone knows, Mike Martin is Pokepop.
Who?
Pokepop.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't hear you there.
There's no worries. He's on Team Compendium. So it's him. It's Big Daddy Snorlax, Ness, and not Ness, Sensei. And I can't remember the 4th guy, the original members of Team Compendium. Anyway, Team Compendium is the rulings team for Pokemon, period. They've been around since Wizards. They've gone through to Nintendo. Whenever a set is released, you can go over to Pokegym right now. The official compendium is on Pokegym. If you play the trading card game, you know what the compendium is, because it's the official rule book with the card interactions. And every time a set's released, they have to give, how does this power interact with this attack? Erratas are kept in there.
There's something like that in Magic called Gatherer, and so the same thing like that called Gatherer in Magic, that every time a new set. So that's interesting. So that's called, what is that? The
The compendium.
The compendium. Okay, cool.
Yep.
That's good to know because I do know that with trading card games, which is so important for them, you have to
Yep.
have something like for a actual living card
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
When things are being added every few months, you
Exactly.
have to go and continuously update it. Which this is a very collector's based hobby, but it's very important that
It's a
also the
very
playing side is
player-based hobby.
balanced.
It's so weird too because we'll get into it too. But when I was around, it was 10%, maybe 10% of the people collected but did not play. Majority of people played the game too.
Mhm.
So it's flip flopped now. It's flip
Yeah.
flopped completely.
And it's been
So
that way for a while too. It's
it
not even like
has,
it's not a new flip flop. It's been that, but it was like when I remember, I agree. It was very much so. It seemed
yeah,
like 90% were playing or using the
yeah,
cards to actually do, and then the other 10%, it's like, oh, you're putting a binder together. That's
right.
kind of interesting.
Like no one that I knew just did that. Now I'm sure they were out there too, but like my circle, my sphere of people that I was around, we all played. Everyone played. So Mike Martin ran a Pokemon league literally like 2 towns over from me.
So you're sort of in
So
your teens at this point, right? You're mid to late
yeah,
teens.
yeah, I'd say junior, senior year of high school.
Yeah. Okay. So like
Yeah, yeah,
mid to late teens.
17, yeah, something like that. I had a
Right.
car.
Right.
Definitely had my car. Um so we started to go to his league and he needed judge support to run tournaments. So me and my group of like 2 or 3 friends, we started to run all of his tournaments with him. So we would it was like, so the main reason I did it was there was judge support. So you can my main goal every year as a player was to get to Worlds.
Right.
So if I got my invite to Worlds, I didn't need to play anymore that year.
Mhm.
That was my logic. So I could enter this tournament and I was good enough. This was the other thing. I'm not trying to brag, but I was good enough where I honestly felt bad about entering a lot of tournaments because I just knew I was going to win. And I
Well,
always
it wasn't as competitive back then as it is today, right? So like,
right. It
I mean, there
wasn't.
were the competitive people like yourself who were really good and really into it, but a lot of really casuals who were in it too. So
Right. And I
yeah.
felt like people like they would come and be like, oh shit, Joe's in. And then they'd be just, I'm serious. So like I started to get more into judging because I would get the same level of interaction with my friends judging as I would playing. I'd still be there. I'd still know everyone knew who I was, which was important to me. Like I wanted to be like involved in the game. And then I started to really like bringing in all the stuff, the tables, the chairs, setting up the venue, running the tournament organizer software and putting everyone's names, doing deck checks. I really got into this. Like it was as much fun. I really liked being the guy that people called over to the table to answer rulings questions. That was cool.
Judge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was me. Yeah. I was a judge at nationals many times. So Mike would use me and a couple of my friends for regional level events, all the local gym challenges, the stadium challenges. We were the judges that he would use. And I really got into that. That was like, it was a way to be involved. Like you weren't seen as much of like, you had more, I don't want to say it like this, but I guess it kind of is. You were just respected more. Like it was more acceptable. Like it was
more like being a hall monitor, but better. You get rewards for it. It's like you don't really get rewards, but it's like you get a level of power that doesn't really exist. Yeah,
you get a level of like people like they look up to you a little bit, and like it's just a little bit. I'm serious, like
way cooler than I just want to say way cooler than a hall monitor though. Being a gym leader, so much. I was just joking, but yeah, but like that level of it's like a level of power among.
It's almost like I always wanted to be a teacher. I never ended up doing it, but I was originally a physics major and I wanted to teach high school physics. So the thing I loved the most about League was teaching. I loved teaching that moment where they get something where they're like, oh my God, they get it. I love seeing that moment. And when you're a judge and you have to know all the card rulings, you have to know the game in an intricate level that most people don't. You have to know the meta extremely well. You have to be able to deck check. You have to know what you're going to see before you have to know the question before they even ask you the question. Half the time I'd get a hand. I'd look at the table. I'd look at what's on the table. I'd already know what they're going to ask me before they even ask it.
Yep.
So it's just a level of like, it's like getting past the Elite Four. Like you're there, you're on that other level now. And I really enjoyed that. And I ran like that for a long time. One of my goals that I never got to do was you can do it now, but back in the day, it wasn't a thing. I really wanted to judge Worlds. I never got a chance to do it because they only allowed Team Compendium to judge Worlds. And I was not on Team Compendium, although I was like really good friends with Mike. But I tried to get him to get me in to allow him to, and I was close. Like it probably would have happened had I continued with Pokemon.
So it was that tight knit of a group, like
yes,
that group was that tight knit. Like they were the ones judging every Worlds. That's yeah. Well, I mean, there were probably only a few people who knew the game like that.
It's true, there were. Yeah. And they had direct line of communication with Wizards and Nintendo.
You would have to, because they probably knew the game better than the designers themselves.
They would get set translations before the sets came out, because they had to know what to expect, what was coming down the pipe. They would get boxes of the entire set, like 1 through whatever. They'd send them a box of like the whole set ahead of time.
You see on Leonhardt's channel.
Those types of things. Every one of those that's open, I've seen them. I know people who still have them, and they would get them, but they had to see the cards in order to write the rulings for them. Like they just had to. So it's understandable. But it was, I'm not gonna lie, it was really cool to get like that, to peek behind the curtain on a lot of things. Excuse me. So I remember going, now you'll have to forgive me, Skyridge came out in 2004 or 3.
It's 03, 04, I believe.
I think it was 3. So whatever the last year, I believe it was 03. Wizards, the last year Wizards had the game. The whole player base was extremely, I'll say player base / Pokemon community, because it was one and the same thing. The whole community was extremely, rumor is like, we all knew that Wizards most likely wouldn't keep the license, and that Nintendo was pushing. They were pushing to acquire the rights to do organized play and distribute cards.
Okay, so let's back up just a moment for those who are watching who don't know this exact story, since we are going to get into this right now. Between 2003 and 2004, Wizards of the Coast, who was the original kind of printers of Pokemon in the United States, you see the old Wizards of the Coast wrapping on booster boxes. I don't have one up here to show right away, but they make Magic the Gathering, and they make countless other TCGs. During that time period, there was a falling out of sorts. So it's like a set with Wizards and Pokemon, correct? And that's what we're going to be talking about.
That is,
Joe knows a lot more about the details because he was around and older at the time. I don't even remember this happening. I was already moved on to Magic from Pokemon, but we're going to get a little bit more into the details, because I think this is a really interesting topic to get into. So tell us again, where were we then with Wizards?
We were not in a good place. Wizards, the rumor mill with the player base, Wizards treated Pokemon for the longest time as a gateway drug to Magic.
Yeah, and that's what it was to me.
It was seen as a vehicle to push kids towards Magic, because Wizards owns the rights to Magic. They make more money from Magic than they do from Pokemon. It's just plain and simple business. It's a business decision. Now, they had taken steps to that point. So up until that point, there were 3 player categories: 10 and under, 10 to 14, 14 or 15 plus.
Okay.
There were so many.
They separated that into brackets.
Correct.
Early on then, because I don't remember that when I was playing early on. I remember it being with sort of everyone, but I was playing. So
this started around 2000, 2001 with the Super Trainer Showdowns.
Okay, so that's why I was out of it by then. Okay.
Oh yeah, this was before Worlds was Worlds. Worlds 2004, I believe, was the first was the first Worlds, and it was Nintendo Worlds. Maybe 2003. I was either one of the two. But
what's before the promo from that one? What is that?
Tropical Wind.
What is that one?
Tropical Wind. It's
so that's the promo from 04. That's why it's so expensive. Yeah.
I have a shitload of it.
Yeah, those are cool promos. I like that. I really like the artwork on that.
Yep, it's the only Worlds promo that was released in the original Black Star set from Worlds that was put in the Black Star set.
Oh.
That was a Worlds promo. So
that sucks, because now I need one. That really sucks, because I collect those original Black Star. I don't collect the new Black Stars, but the original Wizards Black. That sucks, man.
Yeah, they threw it in there, and it's like it was a World's participation card.
Okay, well, I guess I need one now. That's terrible. All right, well,
I got a bunch.
Wizards wasn't in a good place at this point. Where with Pokemon, it seems like
it wasn't, and they were pissing off the player base. Here's the problem: they wanted to do away with 15 plus. They wanted to do away with it. They said,
what, just combine it, or
nope, just not have it. They wanted to. They in their mind, Those people should be playing Magic. This is a kid's game.
And so I have no competitive outlet for players at all, just to literally just
No, they want it to have 10 and under, and 10 to 14 is the only two competitive brackets, period, for Pokemon.
That's rough, man. That's rough.
It was. So that was the rumor for a long time when Wizards, towards the end, that was where they were pushing it. Mm-hmm. So the player base was like, oh shit, what are we going to do? Like the older players. Panic, now, I will say that we were a minority. It was a predominantly younger audience that played the game. Older players at that time were a huge minority of the segment of the population that played the game. So,
and I remember that to be true as well. I do remember that exact. There were older people playing the game. I remember a few older teenagers that I would play with. But I do remember they eventually moved on to Magic the Gathering, it seemed like, or other avenues of life.
So what they were pushing at the time was the Professor program. It was the iteration of it, the beginnings of it. It's still around today. Mm-hmm. Their idea behind the Professor program was, we're going to remove the player base for 15 plus, and we're going to make them professors and let them run the tournaments, but they can't play in them, which pissed a lot of people off because they're like, I don't want to run tournaments. I want to play this game. I want to play.
Keep playing.
I didn't mind because I was already running tournaments. So for me, it was like, all right, I can't play at Worlds. I still can play with my friends, whatever, but I can still run stuff. So I was like, whatever. But that was like the mentality of Wizards on the way out. Now, getting into Nintendo versus Wizards. This is the key part that a lot of people, I don't hear people mention. This all happened around the e-reader era.
Right.
Well, who makes the e-reader?
So isn't it Wizards and it went into Nintendo?
No, I mean the actual e-reader.
Is it Nintendo? I have one right here.
It's a Nintendo product.
Yeah. So that's Nintendo for sure.
So who came up with the whole e-reader technology, right? Nintendo. Well, they had, their idea was, we need to make, it's a game, not just Pokemon. Everyone forgets this. There was Donkey Kong e-reader cards, Mario e-reader cards. I have them.
There's like Kirby too.
Kirby. There was all sorts of shit. So in Nintendo's mind, they're like, well, wait a minute. We're going to make these. We're going to print these, but we're not going to print Pokemon cards, but they're the same thing. Wait, why don't we just do it all? And Wizards is like, well, we own the rights to the trading card. Like, you can't. Like, Wizards of the Coast owns the rights to what's known as a trading card game. Right. All other companies pay in order a royalty.
That's why CCGs exist, and those, legend LCGs and those types of different card games. Yes.
So there, as you can imagine, there ensued a huge legal battle between Nintendo and Pokemon. Nintendo, because of the e-reader, thought they could take, and obviously very, very successfully thought, and very correctly, they're like, we don't need you anymore. We don't need you. We can do this ourselves. And Wizards was like, go screw yourself. You need us. We have distribution through all of North America. We control this. We invented the trading card game. Good luck. So the other thing that happened was, and I don't remember who, so this is definitely hearsay, but I know it to be a fact. I don't have first-person knowledge of this. 2 higher ups at Wizards were recruited by Nintendo that were involved in the production and organized. It was either the marketing director. I can't remember who it was.
Spicy.
2 higher ups, Nintendo pulled them out of Wizards, basically non-compete clauses. And that's where Wizards went after Nintendo for non-compete, because they pulled 2 of the higher ups. Nintendo pulled them and said, we need you guys to help us start up this whole trading card bullshit. So
who cut ties with whom then? Was it then
Wizards sued Nintendo?
Okay.
When the license came up for renewal, Nintendo did not renew the license.
Got it.
To allow Wizards to produce Pokemon cards. And
so then did Wizards win that lawsuit then?
I don't know whatever happened with that lawsuit, with the whole, but eventually Nintendo for a while, and I say Nintendo, right now it's called the Pokemon Company International that prints the cards. But at the time, it was Nintendo. They, for a while, and I don't know, because I was out of it for 6 years. I was out of like the inner workings of how this all went down. But
this is the dark. You were out of it for the dark days of Pokemon. That's what everyone calls the dark era.
No, I was in it for the dark. I was in it for like the Diamond and Pearl era and like the
so you were in it for that. So because that's sort of that real dark era right there.
Oh yeah, we'll get into that.
Early Diamond and Pearl era where there was nothing.
There was nothing.
Yeah.
But through that era, Nintendo paid royalties to Wizards in order to make a trading card game. They paid them a small royalty every year. Mm-hmm. Now, this was the time. So Wizards' last produced set was Skyridge, obviously. The last year when this was going to happen, Wizards said they knew they were on their way out. So instead of holding Worlds, which at the time was the Super Trainer Showdown, they had a blowout event. It was called the Fan Appreciation Tournament. It was held at Gen Con that year. And I went to it. It was in 2013, 2012. I can't remember the exact year, but it was held at Gen Con and it was called the Fan Appreciation Tournament. And it was essentially Worlds that year. It was Worlds for that year, but it was a blowout. I tell the story all the time. They had a stock room, a room at the arena, at the venue. It's bigger than my oh shoot, I almost knocked that over. Sorry. Bigger than my living room back here. It was a storeroom bigger than my living room, stacked floor to ceiling with pallets of cards. And they were giving it away. They were clearing house because they could
just everything in it,
everything they had.
Get it out of here.
There was no point in keeping it anymore because there wasn't going to be an organized play division for Pokemon. They couldn't sell it. They weren't allowed to sell it anymore. So they were just giving it away. And I remember I got 10th place in the main tournament. They had side tournaments all weekend. I remember doing a theme deck challenge where everyone's handed a theme deck and 3 packs of cards, and you make a deck out of that. You play in a little mini tournament. I remember getting booster cases of cards for winning a theme deck challenge. The main event, I took home a case of almost every set but first edition base. A case. And I think I got 2 cases of the E series because I had 2 cases of Skyridge. So it was 2 of the latest and then a case back. And I got 10th.
It's too bad you love the game so much. You'd still have some of that now if you didn't.
What do you mean?
You wouldn't have opened it.
I know. I ripped it all open.
That's what I mean. Too bad you love the game. You love playing it so much. You would still have some sealed in your garage.
I would. But that's the player mentality. No one kept anything sealed because what good are these cards in this box that I can't play with? Why would I keep that sealed? Plus, you want to open the set to complete the set. I'm a collector too.
Yep.
How do I know what's in this box until I open it? Like I want to.
Plus, you won it as a prize, and so
exactly.
Your prize, like you got to
free,
win your prize.
No one thought to keep anything sealed, but I also got boxes of like league promos. So I got like cardboard boxes. They were giving those away. So I got this is why, like, if you go to my eBay store, I have Hitmonchans and Igglybuffs for days because I must have got 1,000 of them. Honestly, I just
bought 3 packs of the 8 sealed of the Collectables and the Hitmonchan.
Oh, cool!
And the Venusaur just recently.
The winter stamp ones,
not the winter stamp one, not
those. But those the best of
yes,
series.
The best of exactly because they made the winter stamp and then the not winter stamp, which I find to be very confusing.
Those are cool. Those are cool. Those were
I like him because he looks shiny. That Venusaur, he's got the yellow flower.
I like them because they're Japanese promos that they took and released as so at the time that Venusaur was a really cool card. That Hitmonchan was a good meta card. That was
and the Venusaur is a holo in Japanese.
It is a holo. That's
super cool. Yeah.
I think it's the Game Boy promo, isn't it?
I think you're right. I think it might be the Game Boy or like a CD promo or something. But
I always wanted them to pull that Game Boy Lugia. They never pulled that Game Boy Lugia over. I really wanted that damn card in English.
Beautiful card.
It is a cool card.
I just sold one of mine on my Whatnot recently, so I know the card well. Yeah.
All right. So that was now the interesting thing. Here's the interesting thing about that tournament. Nintendo attended with a booth. They attended because they weren't running organized play yet, but they had a preliminary Ruby and Sapphire out at the time. So nice. Skyridge overlapped Ruby and Sapphire for like a 2-month period. Skyridge was not sold for very long.
It was a short print, right?
It's a very short print.
Yeah, because of the situation with Wizards, they're trying to move that shit out.
Now, here's the rumor at the time was when everyone knew Nintendo was taking over, it was a done deal. And supposedly they were going to keep organized play, and they promised and they did, to keep all the age divisions, to keep pretty much the tournament structure the way it was. They weren't going to shake the ground up, with the exception of, the rumor was, they weren't going to allow any Wizards of the Coast sets. It was going to be a fresh start, Ruby and Sapphire on. So the first block was going to be like it used to be with Wizards when it was just base, but it was just going to be Ruby and Sapphire. So that was the rumor. So no one bought Skyridge.
Yeah, it must have just tanked the value.
It tanked the value. It tanked the value. I mean, it would be like I don't know, Battle Styles coming out and them going, oh well, you can't, or Fusion Strike. Fusion Strike being a greatly playable set, but then being like, oh well, you can't play with any of these cards. No one would buy it.
Yeah, it's
can't use it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, well, why'd you make it then?
Right, right. Now, I remember on Sunday, because the main tournament was on Saturday, and it was wrapped up Saturday night. So Sunday, I staffed the booth at Nintendo. I went over, introduced myself, told him who I was, told him, I'm coming from Wizards. Like, this is what I've done in the hobby. And I got to know the two, at the time, it was two guys that were in charge of all of, they were like, I don't remember their names for the life of me. I don't remember.
For like all the tournaments and stuff in North America.
Dude, Nintendo put the weight of the future of Pokemon on the shoulders of two people for like organized play.
Card game, or like the whole...
No, this is the card game for OP, for organized play.
That's so crazy. That's
I don't
so
remember but I remember them telling me this in the booth. They're like, yeah, it's just us, and we're looking for help because we don't know.
I bet they're looking for help with just two guys.
They're like, we don't know what we're doing. We've never run a card game before. And I'm like, oh. So I spent like all of Sunday helping them. I was sitting at the booth. I was demoing the Nintendo card game. I was demoing it for the kids and the parents. So I got to know these people quite well. And they actually made me an offer. At the time, they asked me if I wanted to come to Seattle to help run organized play with them. They couldn't offer me an outright job.
Coast headquarters in Seattle?
No, this was Nintendo at the time.
Oh, right. That's right. Yes.
So they actually offered this. They asked me, and I was like, "Look, guys, I'm in college," because I was in college at this point. I think it was 2003, so I was a freshman in college, and I was like, "Look, guys, I can't do. I can't move across country." But I was flattered for the offer.
That's awesome, though. That's super cool. And
it would have been.
You still look back on that, you're like, "Man, that would have been a crazy."
My life would have turned out wholly different.
So different, yeah, different trajectory.
Yeah, so different.
You might not even be sitting here at that point.
No, right?
Yeah.
So I remember that happened. And then, so one of the things, so this was right around the time, actually was the time, they had, you remember the original Nintendo promos, the first ever Nintendo promos with the Groudon and the Kyogre, the Groudon Kyogre EXs with that foil pattern that they've never done since. Those were the first two Nintendo promos. And they were giving those away at the demo booth at Gen Con that year. So I have a stack of those Kyogres about this big.
Oh, that's cool.
Because I got them because I worked the booth and they just gave me a stack.
It
was cool. So I don't have as many of the Groudons because those they gave away, I think at another con that year. So it was one for the one con, one for the, and I only went to Gen Con. So I have a shitload of the Kyogres, but I only have like 3 of the Groudons or something.
That's still fun. That's really cool.
It was, right.
For the memory, especially.
A lot of the memories, exactly. A lot of my collection comes from like being involved in the game and a lot of memories. Like, it wasn't like I went out and bought a stack of Kyogres. I got a stack of Kyogres given to me.
Right, you worked it,
so
but I
worked the booth. Yeah,
it's harder to get it like that way than it is to buy it. Like, it's easier to buy, so it's almost like it's more meaningful that you had to work it and do the work. So I feel like that's so cool. It's like a trophy in a way.
Yeah. So that's the Gen Con story. That's the fan appreciation. Now, dude, first place that year, they got their stuff taken out. Like, it was like 4 pallets of cards.
If they were giving cases to like theme deck winners, I can imagine.
It was insane.
It was like, here, take the keys.
Right, pretty much. Like, I remember I had to get my stuff shipped back with UPS. I couldn't even take it back on the plane.
That's a good thing, though. That's the problem we have. That's not a bad thing.
So that was
so after that all happened, then did you continue to stay involved, or is that sort of after the time you sort of phased out of it?
No, because Worlds 2004. So that was Gen Con was technically my first Worlds. I mean, I went to the Super Trainer Showdown. I got top 16 there. So that was technically a Worlds that year too. Then I went to Gen Con. That was a Worlds. But Worlds 04 was the first Worlds I went to that wasn't labeled Tropical Mega Battle, Super Trainer Showdown, it was actual Worlds.
Right, it didn't have its own name. Right, which is really crazy, but that's cool.
Yeah. So that was that year. I remember going. That was in Florida. And I got top 16 that year. That was a great experience. That was so much fun. 2004. I went in 2005. I believe that was the San Diego. That was the year it was in San Diego. So those are my 4 Worlds appearances. The first Super Trainer Showdown, which I believe was in 2001, it was either 1 or 2. It was right when Neo Discovery was out. East Coast Super Trainer Showdown. So it was the Super Trainer Showdown. I went to the Fan Appreciation Tournament, Worlds 04 and Worlds 05. And then, so what happened? So I was in college around this time. I graduated college in 2007. So 2007, I graduated college. I came back home. So I went to school in Upper Peninsula, Michigan. I live in Jersey. I went to school in Michigan. Okay. In Michigan, no one played Pokemon. I'm not even going to get into it that much. There was nothing up there. So I would actually call on the phone, because there wasn't Skype at the time. There was like no webcams. I would call on the phone my friends, and we would play over the phone cards of we would play hands of Pokemon by the honor system.
Dedication, my friend.
Well, it was also partly I missed my friends too, because they were like,
yeah.
So, and whenever I came home from school, I would hurry up and try and like attend as many gym challenges in the summer as I could. I would
get your points for the year.
My points, exactly. Yep,
I
get my points. Yep.
Yeah.
And as soon as I got my points, I would then switch back to judging and running whatever I could to help out. So fast forward, I graduated college, and me and my group of friends decided, like a lot of people do. Well, at the time, my one friend, he got into D&D.
Oh yeah.
So we had a weekly D&D game on Saturday nights. It would start at 8. It would end at, Jesus Christ, 4 a.m. half the time.
Yeah, you'd be lucky to get out.
Oh my God, it was crazy.
I had a D&D group in high school as well. Yeah, we ran for a couple years, and those games would go all weekend long sometimes.
We would end by going to the diner, because in New Jersey, there's 24-hour diners. So we would go to the diner at like 4 a.m. to continue.
We had a Mel's diner. We would
nice.
Do similar things with. We'd go at the end of the night and just, eat. And
I don't remember if it was that. So what would happen was we would play at the card shop. There was a local card shop, and they would shut down at like 2 a.m. They would close the card shop door.
Get out of here.
So,
you ain't got to go home, but you can't stay here.
Right. So our game was right. But whatever he had planned, because the DM runs, if those out there that don't know how D&D works, your DM basically has a story, and they have like, it's almost like chapter points that they intend to get through. So like, he has a milestone that he wants the players to get to that day, or else he can't do what he has set up next week. So we would have to play until we did the damn thing that night. So
sometimes you just don't hit it.
Yeah, sometimes you don't hit
it.
Yeah. So there were plenty of nights where it was like, okay, well, we got to go somewhere. So we would go to the damn diner. We would set out our D&D mats. We'd have everything. We'd be playing in the diner at like 3 a.m. in the morning. And then everyone would be so tired. And I remember one night this came up. We're all sitting around. We're like, why don't we just get a house?
Yeah.
We're like, why don't we just get a house? Like
that seems out a house together. Yeah.
Right. That seems like a great idea. What could go wrong?
What could go wrong with that?
Could go wrong? D&D friends. You're right. Well, we did that, and it did go wrong.
That's a whole other podcast.
That's a whole different podcast.
Yeah.
But what happened is a lot of these people. So the D&D group was half of my friends from Pokemon, and half of my friends that that became my really good friends, but they were friends of friends at the time. I didn't know them, but our DM had a group of other friends that he brought in. So they played
Birds of a feather, essentially.
Birds of a feather, yes. Yeah. They played Magic the Gathering.
Of course they do.
Of course they do. Of course they do.
Of course they do. Yeah.
So I got sucked in hard to Magic, because when D&D was done for the night, everyone would bust out their Magic decks and play. Mm-hmm. And I'm over here like, I can't participate.
Spinning the wheels. You're like, wait, this is a card game. I love card games. Like,
I love Lord of the Rings. I love D&D. I'm like, all right. Now, what got me into Magic shortly was also I like to read too. So I started to buy the Magic the Gathering novels.
The novels were cool.
Novels are cool.
Back in the day too. I like the early stories with the Weatherlight ones and all that.
Yeah, the Weatherlight. Yep, they're really good stories. Mm-hmm. So I would read them, and then the more I would look at Magic cards, I would look at the flavor text, and I'd be like, "Oh shit, this is that scene from that book I just read. Oh my God, cool. That's the same character." And I started
such a beautiful tie-in. Like,
it's such a beautiful tie-in.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same way that drew me into Pokemon was like, these are the cards of the game I just played.
Mm-hmm.
These are the cards of the story I just read. And everyone else is playing it. I was like, screw it. So I was spending more and more time playing D&D and Magic. I didn't have enough money to support 2 hobbies. So
No.
I had to go to Mike Martin and I was like, listen,
You gotta pick one.
I had to pick one. I was like, Mike, I'm sorry. Like, I got to take a step back. Like, I don't have the money for this anymore. I don't have the time to play anymore because my friends are counting on me to play D&D. If you guys don't know out there, D&D, when you have a group of friends, it's not like you can pick and choose when to play.
No.
Everyone needs to be there.
And if you're not there, you'll get cut out of the group.
You'll get cut out of the group.
You're consistently not there. Yeah.
Right. And they're my friends aside from that. So like, I don't want to screw them over. Like, so it was a whole thing. Anyway, so that is what pulled me away from Pokemon. And to this day, it's still one of my biggest regrets is that I gave it up and kind of got out of it. I wish I had still stayed. I kind of like totally. So in my mind, I was like, so this ties in. You also have to understand, this is the platinum era. This is the diamond and pearl era. This is the era where I was like, this game is going to shit.
It's low. It's the dark ages. Yeah.
I, honest to God, was waiting for Pokemon to die. I was like, this isn't going to survive.
People who are watching, who are new to the hobby, there are times in this hobby, there have been multiple times where the hobby has boomed and busted. And it is a it's a turbulent hobby. Let's just say that is normal for the Pokemon hobby.
It is.
This is a normal thing. Right now we're in a boom. Right now in 2022. But it is very much so normal to see these booms and busts.
And I didn't want to pump my money into something that that I couldn't use. So I'm
like,
plus
your friends were getting into Magic, it sounds like.
Right. And I was like, Magic's a sure bet. Magic's not going anywhere.
Yeah, it's hard to. I think it's easy to look back probably in 2020's. Hindsight is 2020, of course, but I think at the time it sounds like it was really a sound decision on your point, and I totally understand because I had a similar story where I had to step away from my hobby of Pokemon to go to Magic for different reasons, but similarly I had to pick one or the other.
Same,
when you're younger, you don't have the disposable income to pick every card game you want to invest in or play or stock in your closet.
Speaking of disposable income, I got stories, and we'll get into. I know one of your questions you're going to ask me. Remind me to go back and talk about at some point. Remind me to go back and talk about the eBay auctions that I used to watch go off.
Oh, I'm sure you probably have. How long have you had your eBay account for?
Every time I call customer service, they congratulate me for 20 years of loyalty. So I've had it for 20 years.
2002. Wow. Okay, so mine's 2010. So I feel like mine's pretty old, that's not. Yeah.
I started my eBay when you didn't even have I didn't even have a credit card. I sent my payments with cashier's checks and bank checks. Like
I remember that those days they didn't do. Yeah, there wasn't PayPal was a big deal when they partnered with email and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it wasn't even a thing. Yeah. I originally got my eBay. My aunt got me into it when I was a kid because she used to collect. See, I come from a family that collects shit. My aunt, who I would go once a year to Florida to see for 2 weeks, she collected circus stuff and Mr. Peanut stuff.
Oh, so she was all over eBay.
She was all over eBay, and my uncle collected Matchbox cars.
Oh, he was too. Then any weird collectors, they're all over.
Oh yeah, they were all over that shit.
Paradise.
And I remember I originally collected Transformers, and I used to have to acquire them because there was a dead period where the Transformers weren't in the stores. And when I was a kid, the only place you could get them were flea markets and like garage sales. And then I learned about eBay, and I was like, oh my God, I can get anything I want.
For whatever price it goes for an auction.
Right. I was like, holy shit. So I begged my aunt to get me. She set up with me the account and everything. And I remember I loved
cool.
it. I loved
you were set. You were set for life. But she was setting you up for success later on by teaching you those skills and kind of. So shout out to your aunt. That's fantastic. But that's kind of a good question, though. I did want to kind of ask you, leading into that, though. Speaking of eBay, before we get into this next question, what is your eBay auction? What do you end your auctions at? I have to ask every guest at some point here, but when you're putting in your snipe bid, what's the second or the minute that you like to put your snipes in at?
I actually don't buy much off eBay these days. I do buy, but I don't do snipe bids. I don't do that. I put my price in, and if I win it, I win it. If I don't, I move on.
Yeah. That's and I love asking this question because everyone has a different strategy with it. So
there's reasons for this too. I am at such a place with my collection where the stuff that I am chasing, you ain't going to find it on eBay. And
it's not going to come up in an auction on Tuesday evening.
No. And the money I have to pay for the stuff that I really want, I need like when I want it, I will go buy it. Basically.
Okay, let me ask you then one of our questions for later on that I want to skip to. Speaking of which, if you could have any item in the hobby, if it could be anything in the Pokemon hobby, not for resale, so not value wise, but just something to have. Since you just kind of brought this up, this is somewhere I wanted to ask, but what would that item be if you had to choose?
Okay. Something? I know. I love this question. I've been waiting to answer this question. So I'll give you my top, and then you said you also want to, because I definitely have a top 3.
So yeah, a lot of people, when I ask this question, they're kind of like, oh, I have a couple, but if you have one, awesome, but a top 3 would be great too.
Number 1, pre-release Raichu.
So the pre-release Raichu, for those watching or listening here, is so they, in pre-releases, they put a stamp on the card that says pre-release. And in the early days, there were rumors of this Raichu, this base set Raichu, essentially, being on a sheet, essentially, of jungle pre-release cards too. And so that's a big time rumor in the hobby that I know that Joe, you probably have feelings of it one way or the other. I still don't know if it exists or not.
I've seen it twice.
So the thing about that card though, aren't there rumors on E4 and also threads that speculate that the stamps that are out there aren't legitimate stamps?
I don't know about that. I saw Dark Master Trainer Mike Bowser, who worked for Wizards of the Coast at Worlds, pull out his personal binder, and there they were.
Okay, and how many did you see? Multiples?
Two.
Mm-hmm. And so they do exist.
They do
Whether
exist.
The stamps are legit or not, that's kind of but it
they're
sounds
legit.
Like if it's from that
legit.
legitimate person.
He didn't make them for no reason. This was like a binder that had like a lot of like stuff that people weren't supposed to see in it.
Yeah, so this card is a card that's rumored to have come out at parties, and when people get drinking, it gets shown.
It was late.
Where these rumors come away. So it's a hot topic in the hobby. It's a very hot topic.
It's not a hot topic to me because I was there.
But you've seen it with your eyes, so for some, and I do believe you for that. I've heard from people though before this conversation. I've heard many one way or the other. Right? I've heard oh, it exists for sure. I've seen it. It doesn't exist. It does exist, but it's fake. All these different,
it's real.
So that's interesting. So my thought, or what I had heard of it, is there were a limited number of them because it was printed almost on accident, but it was like
it was printed on accident. Yes, right. I don't know how many of them there are. I do know it exists. I know I've seen some of them.
None graded, correct?
None. Oh God, no grading wasn't
right because they won't even recognize per se.
It wasn't even nobody grading was back then. I don't know if any have been graded since then by any company. I don't know. I know it exists, and ever since I saw it, I wanted it. Ever since I saw it, because you have to understand, this goes back to who I am as a collector. I'm a completist. I want the stuff that no one else has. Because I want to be the dude. You have no idea. You're at Worlds. You have the best of the best in the hobby. Everyone, when he pulled that binder out, was like, holy shit, because it's something no one else has. I wanted to be that guy. Always want to be the guy who pulls out his binder and everyone goes, oh my God, look what that kid has. I've always wanted to be that guy. So
and that card would be that card. I think that card might be more of more than a Illustrator Pikachu. It might be more of a,
if it was legit. Yes, if you had a legit chain, like, dude, I haven't kept ties with Mike. Mike Martin, Pokepop, who I mentioned earlier, knows him really well. I would love to know. I'd have to ask him if he still has that card or not in his collection. Like if any of the ones that have come out are his or not. I could probably figure that out.
It would be a week of YouTube content in itself if any little leak of news came out. It wouldn't even have to be a picture of a card.
When League opens back up, I haven't talked to Mike other than Mike Martin, Pokepop. I haven't talked to him on a meaningful level other than to go pick up my pre-release kits in a long time. But when League opens back up, the league I ran is still a league. So I'm going to go back.
That's cool. You gotta check it out. Yeah.
I'm going to go back. I'm going to run my league again. So I'm going to go with Mike again. So
you can play a VMAX Jolteon deck or Flareon deck.
Actually, I have my own deck I want to try.
Have you been playing any of the new
I've been playing.
Yeah, the
No, I
PTCGO
haven't. No, I
client?
haven't. No, I built a deck and just been playtesting
Oh,
it a
okay,
little
just
bit.
in on like real life.
When the new one releases for because it's only in beta right now, right?
Yeah,
It's
I
not,
tried to get it yesterday, and I actually was like looking for like an hour. I was like, why can't I find this
you
thing? And
can't
it's
because
just
it's in beta.
yeah.
Yeah. But when that's out, yes, because I want to be able to scan the code cards with my damn iPhone and not have to
After
use
you said that, I went and I got all my good code cards and I
nice.
separate them because I'm ready to scan them too. Because I was like, oh my gosh,
So
same thing. Like,
so one of my favorite things about opening on Whatnot is nobody wants the code cards.
oh yeah,
So I have boxes of code cards ready to go.
Yep,
Like
yep.
I'm just like, dude, it's like I can play online for free now.
Yep.
But anyway, we digress. So
yeah. So I did want to. So that story, I think for anyone who's stuck around and has been listening, I think that pre-release, Raichu, I agree with you. And I completely forgot about that card. I'm like you. I'm somewhat of a completionist, and in my Black Star promo, I keep my pre-release promos, and there's that one spot that I keep open for the Raichu. Even though I
nice.
don't believe that I'll ever get it, it's still an empty spot in my binder.
That's beautiful, awesome. That's
Yeah.
cool.
So what are your other two cards? Because you did say you had other two cards.
One of them's not a card, but it's a deck.
Okay.
I've always wanted from the Tropical Mega Battle 2000 or 1999. I'd have to look up.
The one where they had the t-shirts?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
The English VS half deck.
Oh, so that's the English. Yes, I know what you're. So for those listening, the Versus series, VS series in Japan was a Japanese exclusive artwork set that came out.
It was.
For many people, it was only in Japan. But in that one tournament, because the competitors were in different languages, they gave each competitor their own deck with their own language of those Versus cards. So those might be some of the rarest, probably sealed.
That's
I don't
why
think
I want them.
One would exist.
I could have bought one for $300.
A sealed still?
So this goes into the, and I wish I was home because I would pull out, I have it printed. I have it because at the time, whenever I saw something pop up on eBay that I couldn't afford, I would print it. So and I would hang it up behind me. Like,
oh, that's so funny.
Someday I'm going to own that.
Remind you. Yeah. Yeah.
I still have my printouts. And one of the printouts was, I think it was probably Chris Phillip from the time because he went and he won. I think he was selling all of his world stuff. And he had the English VS half deck. Buy it now, $300. And I didn't buy it because I was a poor college kid. I was like, oh,
yeah. And $300 at that time, you have
that's
to
a lot of money.
That's a lot of money back then for Pokemon cards. You could have got like a base set booster box for that at that point.
I mean, I have printouts Trophy Kangaskhan's going for like $450. I mean,
Tropical Mega Battle. Didn't a PSA 3 of one of those just sell recently for like some record? Or no, it was a trade. So someone at Collecticon traded a PSA 3 Trophy Kangaskhan for a Legendary Collection booster box.
That I heard about. Yes, that I heard about. Yep.
Yeah. I thought that was a really cool trade.
I would totally have done that trade because for me, like Trophy Kangaskhan, of all the trophy cards, that is one of the ones I've always wanted. Because
more so than the Illustrator?
Yes, because it's a Pokemon.
Okay.
I like the card better.
So is the Illustrator has Pikachu on it though.
It's a trainer card. It's a trainer card.
I know where your player mind.
You know where I'm going exactly.
That trainer card. You're just like it's a trainer.
I'm like it's a trainer card.
It has Pikachu on it. Like
that doesn't mean anything to me. So does
Team Rocket. Okay, I get it. I know.
I wanted
for the longest time. I had that. I've just recently started seeing cards like trainers and looking at the artwork and being like, wow, well, this trainer card has this Pokemon in it. I like that. But I get it.
Yeah, because I'm looking at the Kangaskhan, like I could play that. Who the hell would play one? I'm like, I could put that in a deck. Like I can
right. It has it goes into that intrinsic value of what these cards I believe have. That a lot of folks will say that these cards have no intrinsic value.
Oh, they do.
I do believe that they have value. It may not be value to the people who hold them, but there's value in the ability to play these cards to somebody at some point in time. And it may not be in the future, but there was certainly in the past.
Oh yeah, definitely, for sure.
That's where I think there's some level of intrinsic value there.
But those are my two.
Okay, and then what would be your third then?
It's a set of cards.
Okay, that counts.
I've always wanted a set, and Mike Martin Pokepop has one. I'm going to get them. I'm going to get these from him. I swear. I've wanted a set. He offered them to me at one point, and I never traded for them. Of the 4 position only cards.
Oh man, I've seen those on TCA Gaming's channel.
So right around the same time, do you remember this the sample cards that came out? They were leaked from Nintendo. They have the sample stamp.
Yeah.
I have 2 complete sets of those.
Wow, that's cool. I love those cards. I love all that kind of weird. So I'm also like a
So am I.
Miscut, prone
Error, weird stuff.
error.
Yep. So am I.
Yeah, and
Yep.
the weirder the error, the more unique it is, the better it
Yep.
is for me.
Same.
Yeah.
I love that
Okay,
stuff.
so we're in the same wavelength with that kind of
Yes.
thing. Yeah.
And I remember at the time, Mike didn't have a complete set of those, but he had an extra set of the 4. And he's like, yo, I'll trade you 1 for 1. And I was like, those, I don't really want those as much. I was like, I like the sample ones because I acquired them on my own. Like I found them, I learned about them. I got them all on eBay. I bought them all myself.
It takes a special kind of crazy to be into those kinds of cards.
It does.
I only say that because I know that because I have that kind of crazy. But I'm just wondering, like, if there's a lot of those. Comment down below in the chat. Are you the special kind of crazy that likes those weird error 4 position only? Like, think TCA Gaming, that the things he way overpays for on his channel.
Yeah, right.
That is like, that kind of stuff. Would you ever be that guy, or are you kind of off to the sidelines watching and saying like, I'm glad those people exist, but that ain't for me. But it does apparently take a special kind. So I'm glad to know that a couple other the other ones exist out there.
And I'd say honorable mention goes to upside down inverted WB stamp cards because I never got a set of those and I always wanted those too.
Those are actually more common than I think you might.
They are more common.
You've been looking for them for a while, but I see them pop up in the misprint group all the time.
I want them raw. I don't want them graded.
Most people are grading them these days, though.
They're grading them.
They're trying to get the best value out of them. So
and I want them.
That's where it'll probably be a contention point for you.
If I got them,
where I'm at with the Lucky Stadium and Pokemon Center is I want them raw.
I have them sealed.
I know.
Oh, okay.
Either they're sealed or they're high graded, and they're obviously very valuable. So it makes sense.
Sure.
So I'm looking for like a bent in half raw copy that I can PSA 1 at some point. You know what I mean? That's where my head's at with those types of things.
I hate to break your heart, but I sold the PSA 1 base set Charizard.
Oh no, that's fine. I have a PSA 1 base set Charizard.
Oh, do you? Okay.
That off your hands if you didn't find a buyer for it. So I appreciate you.
I have the 1.5. If you want me to send you that one, do you want a 1.5?
I have my 1.5 Charizard.
Oh my god! Stop. Oh, that's awesome.
The only 1.5 that will probably ever exist because they hate me. And I think it's going to be the only 1.5 I keep in my collection because it's going to be a reminder to me why I should never send cards at high prices to PSA to try to get PSA 1s. It's a reminder to me, a painful reminder. So I do want to kind of go into the next question here, though, because I think that's a good segue. Because I think there's a lot of people who are watching here who watch both of us, who watch a lot of the people who are doing these Pokemon channels, and they wonder if like Pokemon is really all that they do. So like I want to ask you this question because if it gets too personal, that's okay. You don't have to.
No, I have no problem.
I want to ask you, is Pokemon full-time for you? And if it's not, what do you do as your day job? Now I've heard you talk about a couple times you have a day job. So
I do.
So if you don't mind sharing, what is it that you do for a day job? And then
I work.
Furthermore, how much time does Pokemon consume out of that?
So I'm an IT administrator.
Oh wow, okay.
More or less. So I actually work in IT support for a managed service provider. So we're a company that produces or delivers IT services for small to medium and large size businesses that don't have a budget to do it for themselves. That's what a managed service provider does. We manage and provide IT services. So my company, my team does primarily healthcare. So Monday through Friday, I'm actually tier 2 support for all IT related things. Your internet goes down, you need to set up a computer, your server goes down, you need your backup managed, your backup fails, anything IT related.
You're at a desk. You're at a desk. You're helping customer support. That
exactly.
Kind of thing.
Yep, that's my day job. How much does Pokemon consume outside of that? A lot. So a damn lot. So
I see you streaming on. So anyone who doesn't know, Joe Echo streams on EchoBase on Whatnot pretty much every other day. I feel like I see you streaming either every day or every other day. It feels like.
Yeah, got a lot of stuff to get through. So I do my streams. Typically, my weekday streams. Every once in a while, I'll do one on a lunch break. Or I'll do one Friday mornings before work. So I'll get up at 6 a.m. and I'll try and cram a 2-hour stream in before I start work, which I've gotten pretty much down to a science. I get it right around that 2-hour mark. And then Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings, I'll also get up and I hit that early AM crowd also. So yes, I am grinding on top of running my YouTube channel, on top of running a full-time eBay store, on top of so I actually also have, I know you asked this too, or if you didn't, you're going to, I have other hobbies outside of this also. So
Mhm.
I compete in strongman. That's
That's
what I
that is a really I know people who like are into working out and stuff. That's a whole like lifestyle for
It
sure.
is. It is. It integrates rather well, actually, with running a Pokemon business, because running a Pokemon business, although it's stressful and it's a lot of, a lot of time, it's not very physically stressful.
Right.
So it's all about time management skills, which I'm very good at. Um, and I actually did a video recently on my last video I did on my channel on YouTube. I go into basically about how to do stuff like this, how to start out, and what it takes to get to like where I'm at with running a business, with running a Pokemon business. And a lot of it is work ethic and what I like to consider like next dog up mentality. So you have to be extremely good at multitasking and very good at organizing and task prioritization. But this is key. When you're doing so, I juggle a lot. I'm also engaged, and I have two stepchildren who are in sports.
Congratulations on the
Oh,
engagement, by
thank
the
you.
way.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
So my time is very valuable. It's the most, and I've heard people like Jake and like Dan from Catch 'em All mention this all the time. What's the most valuable thing that you have? People all say, well, it's money, right? It's not money.
Time.
It's time. It's
Time.
time. It's the most valuable resource you have that you can't get back, number one, and you can't have any more of. You only have 24, everyone only has 24 hours in any given day. And where you focus that time is extremely important. But one way I've been able to have other hobbies and still run a Pokemon business and do things like talk to you at 8:30 on a Sunday night
Right.
is I have a next dog up mentality. So like this goes into sports. When the cage opens, the dog tears out, he accomplishes the task, he goes back in the cage. He doesn't remember the last time that cage door was open. They open that cage again, he tears out, he accomplishes the thing, he goes back in, cage gets shut, rinse and repeat process. When the alarm clock goes off and I wake up to stream, I'm streaming. I'm not worrying about what I'm doing for work. I'm not worrying about the fact that I have to go train at the gym later that night. I'm not worrying about anything. I'll worry about that when that happens. I have my day planned out. I know what I need to do. I don't stress about it. I don't worry about it. I don't focus on it. I do what's in front of me. I do it until it's done. I move on. Now, a lot of times when we're running a business, you have to be flexible though. Like there are things that are set in stone. My time slots for whatnot are set in stone. But let's say a PSA event opens up and you need to stop what you're doing because you need to get in line for a PSA event. Well, that's important. You need to be able to have the ability to stop opening packages for your business for the day. Stop taking pictures on eBay. Stop what you're doing. Go focus on doing this thing. When that thing's done, coming back and finishing what you were doing. So every day when I start out, I pop open a notepad file. And as I think about stuff I want to do, I write it down on my notepad file. And when I get done with something, I take it off the notepad file. But while I'm doing any particular thing, that's the thing I'm doing. And the one thing I can say to everybody is if you do stuff like this and you're not Pokemon full time, you are going to be dog ass tired by the end of the day, every day. I don't remember a day in my life I haven't been tired. So
you're not tired, you're not doing something right.
if you're not exactly.
Yeah.
So why am I doing all this? What are my goals eventually? I would like to, actually, I can't share some of my goals. I can't. I
Yeah, and
do have,
you gotta
I,
have personal like things that you can't like goals you can't tell the whole world because you don't
right.
want to get them taken or you want to get there first. Yeah, I get it.
Well, it's
Or
nothing
not
that
necessarily that, but yeah.
there's nothing that it's personal things that I would risk if I said them out loud, but it's nothing that the Pokemon world's going to take from me. So it's nothing that you
Gotcha.
guys
Okay.
out there are going to take from me, but I don't want to get into why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Gotcha.
I do have goals in mind.
Yeah, good job.
Okay, so I'm pushing hard for that reason. Now, with that being said, if you're not enjoying what you're doing too. I mean, let's be honest. Let's be honest. At the end of the day, we're all dealing with Pokemon cards here, so if we like what we're doing too. So it's a
Yeah, and
lot of
so I
hard
would
work.
assume you do like what you do
Oh,
as
I do
far
like
as
it.
yeah,
Like,
because for
yeah,
those listening, it's a grind.
it's a grind.
Like what Joe just said is 100% true. As a streamer myself, I will say it's 100% a grind, but it's a grind. It's a labor of love. It is at
It's
the
a
same
labor
time
of
a
love.
labor of love for sure.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Definitely agree. Um, and I do have goals in mind where, it drives me every day to want to get to a spot where, because my mom always said, you can't burn the candles at both ends. You're going to burn out, but you can do it for a while. You can do it for a year or 2 years or 3 years. If you have a good work ethic to get to a point where you can finally pull back a little bit and enjoy life.
Well,
And
work ethic is something I hear time and time again in this hobby from those more successful in the hobby. Like you hear TCA Gaming talk about it.
Yep.
The same thing you said is almost mirrored by something I hear Rusty saying all the time on his channel. He just says whenever he's talking about his business, he just says whenever he thinks about doing something, he just does it. He doesn't wait. Don't put anything off. His main advice I've ever heard him give people is that when you're doing things, just do what's in front of you.
That's exactly. I didn't even know he said that, but that's exactly what I'm saying too.
No,
yeah.
And that he says the same thing you say, and it's roughly the same thing. I mean, it's a little bit, but it's roughly the same, and it's that mentality of good work ethic. And I definitely, I can definitely agree with that. And I would say it sounds like that's a similar thing that a lot of folks who are in this hobby, which it can be a little grindy, they probably need to hear once in a while. It's good to say that.
That's what I went through in my video is like, I've gotten a couple comments recently that like, oh, well, well, of course you get to open packs and this and that. And I'm like, well, listen, dude, you have, especially working with distributors. That's a whole other conversation we could get into, but people are so disillusioned with how easy they think it is. And it's just such a grind to get to a point like where you have any sort of privilege.
Yeah.
It's not automatic.
I've been with my distributor for 2 years now, and I still get 3 cases on each release. And then each additional,
so I don't feel so bad.
Only 3 cases.
I don't feel so bad now.
Yeah, but 2 years with my distributor. I can get additional cases, but it's usually on the weeks afterwards, and I typically will have to pay a little bit more if I want more, if the price has gone up significantly.
So I get 10 boxes, and that's it.
So that's not even 2 cases.
Not even 2. I've only been with
about interesting. They don't even ship 2 cases. They take 2 boxes off.
I do get a full box of ETBs. That's 10.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I only get 1 case of ETBs, so I get 3 cases of boosters, 1 case
and 1 case of ETBs,
and about 2 cases of each auxiliary product, which is like the boxes, the collection.
I get some of that.
Yeah,
so I don't have
distribution is really something that for a lot of folks, and Joe and I, we use different distributors too.
Sure,
and for those listening, we people don't use the same distributors, and they have different relationships based on buying power, based on location, all this stuff. So a lot of what we say is going to be hearsay based on what a lot of bigger people say. But it is one of those things that it's not known, the behind the scenes, and that's partially why we're doing this series. Is I like people to be able to have that peek behind the scenes and kind of know more about some of their favorite collectors and creators, because when it comes down to it, it really sounds like you started with this a lot of people did. You started off just for the love of it, and you started off because you had a genuine interest in it, and then it kind of grew into something more over time.
So yes, absolutely. So once I exited the hobby, the reason I came back in was a little unusual, actually. So if you actually go to my YouTube channel, you'll see I was putting out videos in I think it was 2012. 2009.
We're one of the first YouTubers. I think it was you and Jim Mint were probably some of the first ones on there, and I think you had more of the first vlog style where you're actually at events and stuff, because I know I talked to a couple of people before we had this conversation. I mentioned you were going to come on the channel or whatever, and people in my whatnot had mentioned they'd seen you on YouTube before, but not from your recent stuff, from way back.
Wow, that's the first time I heard anyone say that. That's cool.
Yeah, a lot of people probably would recognize from your older, earlier stuff, surprisingly.
That's funny.
More than you might realize.
That's funny. So I never I still had my channel and everything, but I had my whole collection, and I at the time, so my ex-wife, I had promised her that when I bought my house that I would, because when we lived in our apartment for the last, so we bought our house 2 years ago. my house now. And
So you
prior
live
to
in a
that,
house currently, and
I
you
live in a
own
house.
you own.
Yes.
Oh, that's nice. That's good. That's
Yes.
nice. Yeah, I'm
But
currently in a space issue here. So like, when we
you know
move,
exactly
we're
what
going to be
yep.
moving to a larger place so that my space issue disappears. So
That was the problem I had was I lived in a 2-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
And I got pushed on a weekly, monthly basis to get rid of my collection stuff. But I had always, wasn't arguing that. My only argument was, I don't have the space to go through this. Like you've seen what I have. I had nowhere to organize this. And I'm not just I was like, look, I'm going to make you this promise that when we get this house, I'm going to start to do this. So that's what happened. I remember getting my house and I was like, I had all these boxes of collectibles I had to go through. And I remember pulling out my Pokemon stuff and I was like, all right, here we go. I need to sell this on eBay.
Yeah.
What's happened to I swear to God, I was like I went in the hyperbolic time chamber and came out. I was like, what has happened to Pokemon in the last 6 years?
So when did you come back? Like, when is this? We're talking about this most recent.
2 months after the Logan Paul break.
Woo, boy, you could have picked a better time to come back.
I remember looking on eBay. The first thing I did was like, all right, Pokemon recently sold, sort highest to lowest. Let's see what's out there. And I remember going through and I was like, I got one of those.
You know what's funny about that?
I got three of those. I was like, oh my God.
You could have come back 6 months earlier from that and sold your cards at an all-time low. But instead, you came back right as it was rip roaring.
I never sold anything.
Beautiful timing.
It was, but it made me. So my goal at the time, I was like, wow, our game took off. I got to sell my stuff. Like I need to make this money.
Yeah.
So it was like, here's the problem. The more I pulled it out to go through it, I was like, oh my God, I can't sell this stuff.
The more you don't want to sell it.
I don't want to sell it. I was like, I don't want to sell my stuff.
The collector's paradigm. Yep.
This is my stuff. Like this is my memories, my childhood. Like I can't sell my stuff. Like I'm actually very glad I never did. Because here's what I did. I purchased a rather large, I had a friend contact me. He wanted to get rid of his stuff.
Okay.
So I took a big chunk of my personal investment and I purchased his collection. And that's what I originally started to flip and sell.
That's smart.
I purchased his collection, which was almost as big in size as my collection. So I doubled my collection.
Yeah.
And then I
like to ask people what their biggest regret in the hobby is.
Oh, this is an easy one.
Yeah. So I want to lead because this is a perfect one for me to ask you right after that. But what is your biggest regret then after hearing that story? My
biggest regret in the hobby was after having purchased his collection. I knew this was the first I had ever. So through my research, I now knew of this thing called graded cards, which I had no idea about.
Yeah, because we didn't, players, we didn't grade cards. Like, what are you going to grade 60 cards and come to the tournament with a graded card deck? No.
So not having any experience with graded cards and not really having anyone to talk to, I did as best research as I can. I researched, and this was right when CGC was coming out. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know.
Really hot on CGC at first.
People were really hot on CGC. Now I felt an external pressure by myself and a little bit by my now ex-wife to make up that income that I had spent to purchase this large collection. Mm-hmm. I wasn't in any sort of financial hardship by any sort of stretch of the imagination. Let's call it without getting into numbers. Let's say I put 10% of my portfolio into this collection purchase. So I was still okay.
Yeah. But you wanted to make the money back.
I wanted to make the money back.
The intention was to flip it. So I get it. Yeah.
Well, the intention was to flip it. And also the joy about it is that I was a reverse holo collector too. So by taking his collection, I filled in so many slots in my binders. Yeah. I completed all my sets. So I was like, I basically was like, all right, now let's get all these cards I want to keep. Let's get them for free.
Yeah.
So researching the difference between PSA and at the time, this was around February of 2021.
So they were still open, but they were both still open. $75 a card. Or no, they're probably $30 a card at that point at PSA, right?
No, they hadn't even raised the price to 20. But here's
so they were still open fully at that.
They were fully open. You could submit bulk. Nope, you could submit bulk still because I have PSA submissions at the $10 rate into March.
That was so irresponsible of them.
It was. It totally was.
Continue taking them when they knew
they only. The bump from 10 to 20 was only a thing for like 2 weeks before they were like, all right, dude, we just got to shut down.
That's true. They did. It was very short-lived.
Very short.
It was like when that happened, people saw the writing on the wall and they just sent more, it felt like. So
So long story short, my ignorance, and I'll never like I have reasons for why I did what I did, but at the end of the day, my ignorance, I chose CGC because they were cheaper per card to grade. So I had
So you
just
chose
purchased.
CGC with what?
Oh,
With a
I
bunch of
sent
cards that you sent in
I
your
sent
first.
them over 100 shinings, crystals, gold stars, the best of the best.
So
I
like
picked
high end stuff, not common Charmanders. We're talking.
no, the best of the best from every set. I pulled out 100 to 150 of the best of the best.
Were they
And I
all
sent
like
them.
8.5s at CGC?
I pulled a 9.5 Charizard Gold Star, a
From
9 point,
early CGC grades?
a 9.5 Shining Charizard, a 9.5 Shining Raichu, and a 9.5 Crystal Charizard.
So there's our thumbnail right there. Because yeah.
And I sold them as CGC 9.5s. So not only did I take the L.
So do you remember what did you get any sort of premium for the 9.5 compared to the 10, or was it like just get nuked?
I was so happy to make the money at the time. I was like, oh my God, I just made a lot of money.
Okay.
But
so
now
at least you didn't feel like you got like shafted.
No, but now looking back, I could have 4x'd my money had I just graded them with PSA. So that in a nutshell, that is my greatest mistake I've ever made. My biggest regret, first and foremost, is getting out of the hobby to begin with. Second would be doing that initial, had I just been a little more patient and sent them for the extra. Honestly, the reason I did it was I chose CGC. I think I chose standard tier at the time. And I chose because PSA standard turnaround time was like 50 a card. It was a little higher. It was regular service was
it was
higher.
Expensive, but it was a long turnaround too. But at the time, it was like it was a different time.
It was different times. But this is the analysis I did. Was like, okay, time it's going to take me to get them back versus time it's going to cost to grade them.
Right.
I went with CGC like second tier up, $20 a card. I got them back in like a month.
Yeah.
And I sold them. And now, like, not only should I not have done that, but I should have pulled the 9.5s. I should have pulled the 9.5s aside and said, oh, well, I got to cross grade these at some point in time.
But nobody was doing that.
Nobody was doing that. Nobody was doing that.
No, CGC was the hot new thing.
I would have had 10s in like almost everything. So I still have out of that submission for my personal collection because of this, because again, he had some stuff I didn't have. I didn't have. So I do have a binder page, at least one binder page of every shining from Destiny. But I didn't have any first edition. You didn't
send it all. You at least kept a little bit then. That's good.
I kept all my stuff. I didn't send it.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Yeah.
I said
you still have your personal collection. That's good.
I still have all my
personal from the collection you bought. Well, that's good then.
Yep.
See, so I didn't know you bought a big collection that you were. I was assuming you were pulling from your own collection all the time. I was like, dude, this guy's got like a PokeRev style collection from what I've seen pulling out. But
I do. Well,
right, but it's maybe a slightly less than I thought, though, considering this is all from a separate. So that's good. I still have your collection.
So from this stuff, I still have binders from this purchase that I haven't even gone through.
Wow, that's awesome, man. That's so good.
Binders
and once PSA comes and opens up again, you're gonna have a field day, man.
I have 3 monster boxes ready to go. Three, and I stopped pulling cards to prep because it's like, what's the point? They're not even open.
I just started again doing that because I for a while had stopped pulling, but now I've started coming back to pulling cards to prep because I feel like the writing's on the wall for PSA. Mm-hmm. I think by Q2 of 2023, we'll see fully bulk open again at PSA. That would be
my prediction is December
of this year of 2022 or 2021 or 2022 this year.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, yeah.
I think lottery for 20 to 25 is going to open in midsummer, June-ish, and I think bulk's going to open in December. That's before Christmas.
And I think I would agree with that if I was just wanting to be a little more gambling. But I'm just being cautious with my my throwing out my date, and I would say fully by Q2. But I would probably agree with you that by December, I would think by the end of the year, they're going to want to be through that backlog.
I'm happy with either one.
Yeah, either one. I think it's a good thing for the hobby for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
cute too. If it's cute too, I'm fine with that too. That's fine. It's great.
Okay, so here's a fun thing I wanted to ask to kind of change directions a little bit. Since we were just talking about PSA, I want to talk about though something a little different. What I know some people might know this already because they watch your channel, but what is your favorite Pokemon? And then furthermore, what would you say is your favorite generation or era of Pokemon? Because I think it's really cool to hear what different people say about that particular question. So yeah, what's your favorite Pokemon? What's your favorite era?
Torterra.
A Torterra, yes. I should know. Yeah, so you'll see on the, I'm sure people will see your thumbnail on the clicking on the video. They'll know that's pretty easy. But okay, so what's your favorite era then?
Gold, silver.
So okay, nice. So it's not the era Torterra's from then. So it is
Nope.
yeah, it's the Johto era, which I
Yep.
personally I would argue is probably some of like
So
top tier Pokemon level because like with that game and that era, you got both Kanto and you got Johto together.
see, the
So
reason for me, the reason it's Johto, the reason it's gold and silver, is it probably that's I would say the pinnacle, the height of my childhood fascination with Pokemon. Before, like when I was, that's still that era of when I was in league, Wizards of the Coast League. I didn't have a car yet. I was still kind of young. That captures my innocence as a child of like just having no responsibilities. I had all my friends, my only concern. And then I remember that period in time, Genesis was out in Japanese, but it was not out yet. Genesis, so for those who don't know, Neo Gen, and it was out for like a year before it was out in English, we went from Team Rocket to Base Set 2.
yeah.
I'm sorry. No, we had Jim. Yeah, we had Fossil, Team Rocket, Jim Here's Gym Challenge. And then we went Base Set 2.
Wait, was that before? Wasn't that before the gyms base 2, or was it after the gym sets? Because I remember base set 2 being out. I feel like the gyms with the gym heroes on them were so hype and they didn't interact with the cards before that it felt like they were a little bit. I remember base set 2 felt earlier for some reason.
Maybe it was Legendary Collection. It was out before Genesis. Yeah, Legendary Collection was out before Genesis. That's right. Legendary Collection.
I wasn't around for. I was not around. No. Legendary Collection couldn't have been out before Genesis because I got out at Neo Genesis first edition, and so and Legendary Collection was not a thing yet. So it definitely came in after Genesis, Legendary at least.
I can't
say for sure about base set 2, but I can say that Neo Genesis came out before Legendary for sure.
I'm looking it up
because that was 2001.
Let's see. Of course it does. Never mind.
Because 2001 was the year that Super Smash Brothers got released, and that was the same Christmas that Neo.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay,
yeah, so I remember that. That is my most prominent Pokemon memory. Was the Christmas Neo Genesis came out because I had a first edition booster box split with my cousin.
Yes.
And I remember Legendary wasn't out at that time. So I do remember
that. Legendary was out. Yes, you're right. Legendary Collection came out before Expedition came out. Right before
that makes sense too, because like I do remember seeing some of the Neos, but I don't remember seeing any of the e-readers when I was younger because I was completely out of it by that point.
But I do remember that my entire friend group, all they were talking about was the new generation of Pokemon. Like we couldn't wait. We had translations. We had some of the Japanese cards, but like this was the first time that like a lot of my friends were making decks with Japanese cards because we could get them sooner and we were bringing them to the league, and like the hype train behind the first new generation of Pokemon. It was like all new species, all new cards, all new everything.
So big. That was what really big. Over the top for a lot of people, I think, of that era. Yes. I agree with you on that. Yeah.
It was like, wow, the fun is going to continue. Like they're going to keep this thing going.
It's not just going to be the 151. They're going to keep going. It's like,
right.
Yeah. And now here I am. I'm saying like, okay, we're almost at 1,000. Let's go back and start making reimaginings of these original, series.
Well, that's why I kind of really like a lot of the regional Pokemon that they're doing.
Love it, because it's like you're not adding another Pokemon, you're adding a variant, which would make
Yes.
sense over time and region. I love that.
I
We
love
got
that idea.
1,000 Pokemon to work with. People don't
Right.
need more. We want to work with some of the good ones we like
Yeah.
and reimagine those. So
Yep. I
hopefully,
love
yeah,
the
kudos
idea.
to you, Pokemon. Hopefully you keep doing what you're doing. I think we're not the only ones who feel that way. I have a feeling that there's been some focus groups that probably feel that way. So I feel good about that in the future there.
One thing I do wish, so it was funny. So back in the day, there was a I guess it's almost like a misnomer, but there was this belief that like the Pokemon sets followed a theme where you had your base set, you had your expansions, and then we were under the belief that you always had a villain set, you always had gym sets because of that pattern.
Because that's the original pattern, but
Yo, I wish to God they do more of that.
it would be cool. Yeah.
Like, why don't they make more gym sets? Why don't they make
another
more,
rocket set? Like
another rocket set, or another like this? They did the Aquamagma set, and then
yeah. Well, they did do that one recently, so that was
yeah,
but stuff like that.
Like do a set. Like, why not do a Team Skull set?
Yeah. And I think we are going to see some like throwback to Diamond Pearl because of the Legends Arceus and that whole like Diamond Pearl thing. So we'll see a little bit of it, but I agree with you. I think I would love to see way more of those throwback, like nostalgia, to kind of tie it back in, and it would bring more interest back to those old eras too. So like every time a new thing comes out, you want to collect that old thing that reminds you of it.
We could do an entire 3-hour video on what's wrong with modern, and I could go on a huge rant on this.
And we probably should do that at some point too. I think
I would love to
video. But yeah,
but that's one of my that's one of my complaints is that I set identity. I don't like the set identity these days. I just think it's not like what it used to be.
So speaking of that's a good segue to this next question though. As far as Pokemon is concerned, right now you and I can both say, even though we have our complaints with it, very strong with what Pokemon's doing as far as like the hype and what I think they're moving forward, looking forward. I can think positively about it, but looking forward more than just a year or two. Where do you see Pokemon at in the next 10 years? And furthermore, do you see yourself involved with the hobby after 10 years? Because I think you can go either way, right?
If it's here, I'm going to be involved in it. I'm not going to make the mistake of bleeding again. That's nice. I will always be involved in some way, shape, or form. I will always be involved. I have my own collection goals that I still want to hit that are harder to do now, but there's still a little bit of a fire in me that I want to do that. Once the league opens back up, I plan fully to go back into doing that and trying to run organized play again. I miss it. It's going to be a little bit of a time challenge now with a lot of personal stuff I have in life, but I'm going to make the time for it because I think it's important. So I plan on being involved in it. Now, where do I see the hobby in general? So 10 years from now would be what? We would be at the
35th
anniversary.
Yeah.
I don't see, I made the mistake once before in my life about betting against Pokemon. That was in the Platinum, Diamond, and Pearl era. I bet against them. I thought for sure. And it's kind of funny because that whole time I was out of it, I remember going to the Target, Walmart, and seeing, I was like, oh, Sun and Moon, they're still making those cards. I was like, yeah. And I was honestly, I'm not going to lie, a cynical part of me was really hoping it would die just so I could be right.
Right. Because you left, so you wanted to be right about it. But
I wanted to be right about it.
You didn't ever really leave. You never really leave, though. Once Pokemon gets its hook in you, it doesn't really let go.
So
I found that to be true.
I would never bet against it again. I think the IP, the intellectual property, is just so strong, and it's such a train that it's never gonna. It's a So I've said this before on my channel and other channels. We're at a point. It's jumped the shark. It's a generational game. You have people like me and you. What are we? 38. I don't know how.
I'm 32. So yeah,
32. We're teaching our kids.
Yeah.
And our kids, they're like parents that played it. Like, that's a generational game at this point. It's not going anywhere, people. It's not going anywhere. The only collectible card game that's been around as long as this and longer is Magic. And that's not going anywhere either. So
it's going anywhere either. Yeah. I got news for people. Neither of these games are going nowhere,
Going nowhere. I mean, look, they're still making Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
And that's on Yu-Gi-Oh! They're still making Yu-Gi-Oh! Guys. It's nowhere. It's never touched
There's a large
revenue.
player base for Yu-Gi-Oh, though. I will say, as much as I
There
like to talk
is.
about Yu-Gi-Oh and make jokes and stuff, Yu-Gi-Oh has a very relatively large player base.
I just meant from an intellectual property perspective,
Yeah.
Pokemon's almost ahead of Disney. Like it's up there, people.
I
So
think it is ahead of Disney as far as
is
IP.
it? Is it?
I don't know about it. Maybe it's in a different level, like a different category. So that's why they're not pitted against each other. But I think as far as like brand reaching
I
and
wouldn't
money,
surprise
I
me.
think
It
it's
wouldn't
higher.
surprise me.
I
So
think
there you
Pokemon's the
go.
#1 pop culture intellectual property in the world.
There you go. It's never going anywhere. What are they going to short of like a scandal or something that would tank them in the public eye? They're not going anywhere.
So they're gonna get Danny DeVito to start, voicing Pikachu, and he's gonna start saying,
Seriously,
offensive
like
political slurs and things.
that is the only thing I could see that would take it down, and I don't see that happening. Like you see controversies in other areas of like football, for instance. Like there's a lot. There could be like an NFL controversy. That's not a thing in Pokemon.
Yeah, they're fictional characters that they could just
fictional
change
characters.
if they need to. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a thing. So I don't see it. I see as long as I remember some of the last conversations I had with the people at Nintendo that ran OP was they were like, as long as they will pump money into this as long as Pokemon is a thing. It is a branch of their business and it's not going anywhere, people. So 10 years from now, I'm going to put my money on it. I can tell you that it's going to be here. Now, how much is it going to be here? I don't think it'll be any less than we are right now. I don't think it's going backwards. I don't think the train's going in reverse. I don't think
see
it's
it going through its waves of up and down. There are times in the hobby where it really dies down, kind of like it did in the early 2000s.
Yeah, but I think this might be one of those low times. Like I don't think because I think they're going to continue to innovate with the games. That's going to continue to pull people. I can't predict what they're going to innovate. Virtual reality, maybe something different.
AR with Pokemon Go, maybe another
something
Pokemon
like
Go
that. Sure,
happens. Something like that. Virtual reality.
So yeah,
MMO.
Exactly. I'm sure there'll be dips. But
I tend to sort of think that it could probably go back to being a little bit more down than it is now. But I do tend to agree with you, though, in that the hype of the games and the intellectual property of the anime and all that stuff will definitely drive that and probably prevent it from really dipping too low. Yeah. I would definitely agree with that.
So that's my summation. That's where I, in a nutshell, that's what I think about it. Yeah.
So I didn't ask you this when I asked your favorite Pokemon, but I just kind of want to ask this particular thing. But maybe it's the same thing. But if you had to choose a partner Pokemon, then what would you choose to be your like everyday partner Pokemon?
So that would be my second favorite Pokemon, which would be Aggron.
Aggron. Oh yes, man,
Aggron's my second favorite.
I'm so glad you said Aggron.
Only because Torterra is so damn big.
Yeah, well, Aggron's pretty big too. Imagine trying to go through a doorway with Aggron.
True, but
it's gonna break a lot of doors.
Like, have you seen like the Torterras from the Pokemon Detective Pikachu movie?
They're huge. Those things are like mutants, though. That's not a real size. Those are like the giant Torterras.
The giant Torterras. Yeah.
Those that movie was funny. I wonder if we're gonna see more of those live action Pokemon movies. I
don't know.
I didn't think it was as bad as I was expecting it to be. I don't think it was like the best thing in the world, but I don't think it was the worst. So
no, I actually enjoyed it. I
had fun watching it. I think I've seen it 2 times total, and I don't hate it. It's not like I don't feel like the way I feel the Dragon Ball movie, the Dragon Ball Z movie.
Oh, that was horrible.
Yeah, we won't talk about that. That's a whole nother podcast.
But I am really looking forward to Super coming back.
Oh yeah. No, I love the whole
I love Super
series. Fantastic.
I read
watching.
I read the manga.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, dude, there's so much good stuff that they haven't gotten to yet.
I can't wait.
I love the way ahead.
Yeah. I am way
ahead. I'm excited about it. No, I love all of that stuff. And like the Super card game is really cool too. So,
it is. I love what they're doing with it. Yeah.
The artwork is so beautiful. And a lot of the new TCGs, I will say that a lot of people are really bearish on a lot of these new TCGs that are coming out because of everything being so hot and everyone's trying to copy, everyone's trying to hop on board. But I don't think there's anything really wrong with that. I think that some of these cards are really beautiful and I think it's okay.
It's nothing new.
I personally think the Dragon Ball ones are just ridiculously beautiful, like how colorful and the full arts. I agree.
So
Weiss Swords. Have you seen a lot of Weiss Swords?
I have. Yeah,
they're
great.
Beautiful too.
It is beautiful. I'll say a couple things about that. Number one, I guarantee you that local card gaming stores are not complaining about this because
it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah. There's anything that can attract interest that drives people to local gaming stores, because it's like, even if it's a small group of people, it's just more customers for them.
And it's
So
rough out there. It's rough out
it
there for
is.
local game stores. Like, people think that it's every year was 2020 and everything went to the moon.
No,
There were
yeah,
many years where local game stores were barely holding on. And
I
it's
know.
like they scraped by just because of the fact that they wanted to be there for the community.
Mhm.
So it's a good thing to see when these things are booming. I agree. I agree with
I
that.
will say I'm all behind, like, Dragon Ball Super is fantastic. I love that. If I had to pick up any new game, it would probably be that, because I played the old Score DBZ game back in the day too.
Oh, that's a cool game too. I
I
have some
played
of
that
those
game.
old cards
So
too.
do
I
I.
didn't
So do
play it,
I.
but I loved how they looked with like the power levels on it.
It was a
That
hard
looks
game to
so
play.
cool.
It was a hard game to learn how to play, but it was fun once you learned how to play.
Mhm.
And so, like, what I've heard from talking to a couple of my local card shop owners is there's actually a good group of Flesh and Blood players out there now too.
So many. That's the biggest game right now.
Right. And I can totally get now. I will say the only game I can't get behind, and I don't want to go into it too much because it's gonna,
I already know
you know
what
what
you're
I'm
gonna
gonna say. I can't get behind it. I just can't. I hope it dies. I hope it dies. I don't like the reasons. I don't like it. It just rubs me the wrong way. And this is from somebody who's played a shitload of card games out there. I can't prove it, but I can agree to disagree with anyone out there who supports it, but it will never get one of my dollars. It just won't. And I liked it. Like, I'm from New Jersey. I like the Jersey Devil card. I'd love to have one, but something about it to me just doesn't. I would much rather go play Flesh and Blood or like Dragon Ball Super than I would, or even the new Digimon card game. I think that's cool too.
Yeah.
Than I
And
would
I think
ever.
you're not alone on that, Joe. I don't think you're alone. And I will say that I somewhat disagree in that I don't hope that it fails, but I agree with what you're saying in that I don't like some of the reasons for why I hear people get into it and why I think it was started. So I think that people are much more speculative on it. And I think that people are a little bit irrational. And that's all my qualms with it are, is that I feel that little bit of irrationality may be coming out with the meta zoo sometimes. But I will say that I hope it succeeds in the long term. And for those who are into it, I hope the game gets better, because I have heard a lot that the game's improving a little bit. So over the last couple of sets, because the first couple of sets
Were
you heard
bad.
some wonky things.
Yes.
Yeah, and
now
that's where I
that
know you're
happens,
coming from
that
like
is
the
part
player's
of where,
perspective.
from the player's perspective, that is where I'm coming from a collector's like art appreciation perspective. I think the game looks like shit too. I just do.
Some of them are okay. Some of them are, I mean, it's
I don't like
completely
it.
subjective, but some of
It
them are
looks,
kind of a little bit cooler.
see, that's subjective, and
Right,
everyone's
and
free
that's
to,
not what we're here
exactly.
to talk
This
about.
is a
Right.
right, exactly. This is
Yeah.
my personal, the way I don't like it.
Yeah, and people would say the same thing about Magic or
Right.
Pokemon or Flesh and Blood or some different card
Sure.
games depending on your likes. So I get that.
Like, I would, my likes for it can be, my dislikes for it can be broken down into two completely separate reasons.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, I told you I liked BattleTech back in the day. If I really liked the artwork on the cards. It spoke to me. If that did the same thing as the game we're talking about, if that did what they did, I still would dislike BattleTech, even though I appreciate the cards. I still couldn't support it. It just so happens that the game we're talking about hits me negatively on two fronts, completely separate of each other. I've honestly stared at the cards, like trying to like them, like,
you're not alone, man.
I don't like them. I don't like.
There's a lot of people like you who feel the same way that you do about it, and that's why there's so many like of these talks and stuff that when it brings up so much emotion. It's like because people feel a certain way about it,
right?
Yeah,
but
totally.
Hey, if you're a collector and you legitimately like those cards, like you don't care about anything.
Collectables, you know, Dan with his
Dan really, I believe him.
Bigfoot.
I believe that he legitimately likes those cards. No doubt in my mind that man likes those cards.
He's crazy for it, but I do believe he likes it. Yeah,
and I'm sure he now. But would he like them? Now here's the thing: a true collector would want all his cards to be $1 a piece. Then,
yeah. Maybe I would disagree. I think some collectors would agree to get it. They want it to be cheap, but they want it eventually to uptick, right?
I never purchased a single Pokemon card I have in my collection with the anticipation it was going to ever accrue to what it is today. I thought they were worth $0, and I was
maybe
still
not
fine
the
with
anticipation, but wouldn't it be a little bit disappointing if they were $0, just a little bit?
Nope. Nothing.
I tend to disagree just a little bit on that front, in that I think that some collectibles, while it is, I agree, it's like if you truly love it and you don't intend to get rid of it, it won't be, you don't want it to ever gain, or you don't care. But I think it's nice to know that something that you kind of love has value. I think it adds in a level of enjoyment that does add more enjoyment to something that's not. That's just, I think because I'm a
The
collector of some
only
things.
area that I would agree with that in is what I do like about it is that it makes the hobby popular in the general perspective, that it pulls more people into it and it keeps it sustaining and around. Because again, I liked this game as much in the Diamond and Pearl Platinum era that I do now. And
It was just
nobody
sad to see where the direction it was going at the time. So you want to see
right.
it growing. No,
I
I
wanted
get
to
that.
see it
It's from a place
growing.
of love. That's where it
Sure.
comes from.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if the fact that it's worth a lot of money brings more eyes and recognition onto it, for me, fantastic. If those 4 position only cards were nobody wanted them and they're worth $1, I'd still want them as bad as I want them today.
So yes, but the reason that they are valuable is because they're desirable and they're fun and people like them and stuff. And
Sure.
And I would argue that does add to some people, maybe not for everyone, it adds for some people a level of like value that wouldn't be there if it was worth nothing.
I'll give you an example. The Celebration set.
Okay, yeah.
I like a lot of those cards from a personal perspective. I love the fact that a lot of those cards are $1, $2 a piece. I have like 400 or so Guard of Delta Species Gardevoirs. I have like a couple hundred light toxicities because like I can fill binder pages of this stuff because I like them for cheap and I like the cards. Some of my favorite cards in Modern are worth nothing. Like the new Torterra card in Brilliant Stars is one of my favorite cards.
And a lot of cards were like that in the beginning of their days, and then they uptick in price naturally because of that attrition of people wanting.
Sure.
So I think that we're sort of on the same page with that. I just tend to sort of err more on the side that I do think that collectibles should be valuable, and I think that it adds value the more value they are. Whereas I do understand the other side of the argument where it's like the collectible isn't truly worth something to anyone but the collector. So really, what is it worth but to a collector?
I just think you're right. And I think we're digressing a little bit because I guess my point that I was trying to make is that, and I'm not speaking about Dan, but I think a lot of people like MetaZoo because other people like MetaZoo and because it's worth money right now.
And because it's worth money. And I agree that there's a lot of people who aren't collectors who like it because it's worth money. But I think there would probably be a small subset that are both collectors and they want to be.
I would be interested to see how many people bought it if the IP tanked and was worth nothing.
Yes. So I always say this in my streams and a lot of things when regarding Pokemon, but in order for it to go up in price, it has to go way down in price first. And that is, I think, true for a lot of collectibles. In order for something to really truly go up in price, it has to hit a bottom first. Because then that means that every single person who had that thing, who had a chance to have that thing, they had that chance to have it, and then they got rid of it when they had it. And the only people who continue to have that thing are the people who at the bottom who didn't sell to someone else. And that's what the bottom is when you couldn't push it to another collector or push it off on someone else. And so then those last people at the bottom are the people who really like the item, because those are people who aren't selling it off for its bare minimum. And so in order for an item truly to move, it has to hit a bottom and then it can go up. And so I feel that to be true for a lot of things. I think in order for things to go up in value, they can't always start off at the moon and stay at the moon. I think they have to start at the moon, they have to go down a little bit and then go kind of back up sort of. And that's sort of a trajectory I see with a lot of different collectibles. Probably not all of them, but I see that with a lot of them.
Yeah.
So in order for things to go up, they have to go down, especially with large prints. Now with scarce things, I think we're talking a little differently. With something that's naturally scarce, or if it's already, it doesn't have a large print run, then we're just talking about demand and we're talking about more market movements and things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, what are we at here? We're good. We're doing pretty good here for time. We're at like almost 2 hours now, maybe an hour and a half.
Getting up there. Yeah.
Okay, good. I think we're doing well. We moved through a good amount of the questions.
All right.
I have another one for you though.
Sure.
That I think we touched a little bit on this earlier. But as far as like a good way to kind of wrap things up, because I think we could probably wrap things up here soon. I want to ask you, where do you see yourself going in the channel? Like in as far as in the next year or two, like in your Whatnot channel, because I know you're on Whatnot, your YouTube channel, where do you see Pokemon and yourself, EchoBase Collectables, going in the near future here? I'm just
So
curious to hear it from your own mouth where you
one of the things I've been, it's interesting you said that, because I have a couple ideas for my channel that no one else does that I've been waiting to do. And one of
Nice.
those is more vlog style, out in the world, bring you to league with me, bring you to tournaments with me, document it, set up the camera with the overhead, play my matches, commentary and everything live while it's happening. Maybe not live, maybe live, maybe even live while it's happening.
That'd be
But
cool if you could set
something,
that up.
yep, something like that, because no one does it. No one does that right now.
People crave
Everyone's
that type of like, it's like,
right.
so there's a guy named Sasha T who does YouTube, and he does like those types of like vlogs and stuff. I
Mhm.
know he used to do a lot more of them, and I think there's a large amount of people who
There
really
is.
want that kind of content.
So being in strongman, that's the most common type of YouTube content for health and fitness is vlogs
Oh,
daily
okay, cool.
in the, and I that's like that 6-year gap where I wasn't in Pokemon. I was very heavily involved in powerlifting and strongman, and that's the YouTube content I consumed before getting back into the. So the two types of content I consume from YouTube is strongman type content and then Pokemon. And I've not seen one person cross the style of vlogging that they do over to Pokemon. And I'm like, yo, I can do that. Like, I know how to, I can do that.
Well, that's,
And
yeah, that's similar. That's kind of, that would be really cool. And like, if there's a lot of vlogging going on, I think that in this space of Pokemon, because I used to watch a lot of Pokemon Go content in the YouTube sphere, which is a lot of vlogging because it's like
okay,
travel content, people out in the real world kind of showing as they're catching
neat.
Pokemon. So it's kind of more like a travel, like lifestyle kind of vlog with Pokemon involved. So yeah, I can see how strongman, because it's very lifestyle oriented,
Mm-hmm.
you know, your diet, your
Sure.
routine, your
Yep.
repetitions, you can kind of show good like
Yep.
videos and stuff. That would make a really good that would make a good thing for Pokemon. You should go
Yeah.
into that, man. I think
That's
that's
what
a
I'm
good
going to do.
idea.
Like so like, I want to go and like, okay, like weeks leading up to it, I want to like, I'll compile it all together. So it'll be like, okay, this is me deck testing. This is me playing. Like, these are my ideas as I'm going through it. And then like, okay, this is the day of the tournament, waking up, going, interacting with all the people, introducing everyone. And then like actually like setting it up every like matches. And then like the one part I have a challenge with, I'm going to have to overcome, is that I'm not a very good video editor.
Yeah, neither
Um,
am I. So
I'm
yeah,
not.
I'm right there with
So
you.
that hurdle is something I'll have to figure out how to get over. But
Us 30
that's
somethings, we're not so, tech
no,
savvy as the
I'm
younger generation.
nope. I am not very good with the Adobe stuff. So I'll have to figure out how to do that. But aside from that, no, that's definitely where I want to go with my YouTube. With whatnot. So I heard you say this the other day. I actually downloaded it and I applied. I want to see, I'm waiting to get accepted. I want to get on Drip, the
Oh
new
yeah,
one.
nice.
Yeah. So like I see a lot more. So actually you heard about the eBay vault that's coming, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, one of their little other things that they stuck in there too was
The live
love
auctions.
live
Yeah.
auctions. So
Yeah, I
that'll be
saw that on
interesting. Yeah,
eBay. Yes.
I
That's
know,
wild. Imagine you're on eBay doing the whatnot thing. That'd be
dude.
crazy.
So that's kind of where I'm trying to like keep my eye out. Like
Yeah,
also
totally.
like
I mean, if those competitors, like, that's a good thing. Like, for all of those platforms, I personally think that any sort of amount of liquidity that you can add to these collectibles in this sphere is a good thing for the hobby. I hear a
yeah.
lot of things negativity wise about these like auction platforms
Oh
too,
no, I don't
but I
like.
think that that's sort of short-sighted, and I think those types of things will get weeded out.
I
A lot
agree.
of the negative complaints I hear about these auction houses, it's a lot of, the overspending, the gambling, the unregulated nature of some of these streams, which I do believe will become regulated in the future as these auction houses and
They must
platforms
have to be. Yeah,
start needing to be more regulated. So I
sure.
think a lot of the issues that people have with these things are going to be smoothed out, and this is
Yeah.
clearly the future.
It is. It's clearly a better way. It's a very interactive way to purchase products.
Yeah, and
And
you don't just see one picture anymore. You see the whole card in real time in video. You can see
this
the
is
scratches.
this is something I'm actually curious now that we're talking about it, and you being who you are, you're one of the only people I can ask about this. Something I've noticed, and I'm curious if you've noticed it too. Bringing macroeconomics into the conversation for a second with what's going on in the world, especially considering gas price hikes. I've started to notice an uptick in sales And I'm wondering if that's going to continue to be a trend going into the summer, because people are less willing to go places because of how much it's going to cost. They're like
Yeah, so
sheltering in
can't
place
drive around
almost.
as much, right? And look for the cards. So it's easier
Right.
just to
Exactly. It's
buy it
easier
on a
just,
stream,
yep,
right?
I can interact with this guy. He can open my packs for me. He can send me my stuff. They're more willing to do that because at the end of the day, they're like, okay, I might be paying 20% more, but I'm saving money in gas and I get a little bit of entertainment out of it.
It goes into the same mentality as why a lot of people are moving from in-person classes to
To
at-home schooling. It's not only a time issue, but it's a money issue. It costs
Mhm.
money to go to school. It costs money. You got to get lunch. You have to get parking. You have to get, you tickets if you're late. I mean, all these things, you have to get ready. You have to get your coffee for the day. All these things that you could just stay at home and be on your computer in a Zoom call and do your class. The same reason why, I mean, the argument for why would you go out and do many things that you could interact with online is being made. So I think that sounds like sort of where we're going with this, like that the fact that gas is more expensive, the fact that supply chain is probably going to get disrupted a little bit in the future here. What with maybe more pandemic stuff, or maybe it's war time supply, whatever it is. I think we may still continue to see those issues in the future. And I think that
I
platforms like the
agree.
online live selling platforms that we're on, whatnot, those competing ones like Drip and the new eBay one, those are going to continue to be good options even after this whole boom. And like, we aren't forced to be away from people. It's going to be, like you said, I think a financial decision. It's like, do I want to spend my time going out and hunting stores and going to my Walmart and picking up a booster pack, or do I want to just go on Whatnot or Drip or eBay and purchase it on a live app and just have it right then?
So
So
quick.
I do agree, and I have seen a slight uptick in sales. I don't think it's per se from the current macro events as much as I think it's from an uptick of brilliant stars and increase of popularity of Pokemon right now. I
Hmm.
personally think we're going to see, after Astro Radiance comes out, a return to what we saw as normal in the last few months in
Okay.
that more sort of downward market. I think Brilliant Stars was sort of something that didn't save. I don't want to say that game stores were in hot water per se, but I do believe that it did a lot for the
Oh
hobby
yeah, it was a
when
very
it
well
came
timed
in.
set.
It was
Yes.
a good set at a good time for what needed to happen. And I just think that I don't think you could bottle lightning. And I think Astro Radiance, while I'm excited for it, and a
I'm
lot of
excited
people
for it
are,
too. Yeah.
yeah, I'm very excited for it. I love the
Yeah.
artwork. I love the cards.
So
I
do
think it's
I.
gonna be like a Chilling Rain situation where it's just not as popular as a set
Sure.
that is either going to follow
Dude,
it or previous.
cool little Whatnot story real quick. Probably my coolest moment so far on the platform. So I got in my Shining Fates restock of ETBs the other week.
Hmm.
And I'd never opened Shining Fates for people on stream before. So that was a new experience for me.
It's fun. I open
It
a
is
lot of
fun.
it on my channel.
Fun set to
I
open.
love opening it. It's one of my favorite modern sets to open.
So I had one of my regulars on, and he was on. I opened it over the course of 2 streams, and the first stream he was like, "Oh, he's like, I don't need many cards from this set." Blah blah. He bought, I don't know, $40 or $50 worth of packs. Anyway, next stream he's going in a little bit more in the chat. He's like, all I need is the Shining Charizard. He's like, it's the last card I need from the set. Sure as shit, if I didn't open that card for him, 2 packs
Yes.
later,
I
he
opened
was
one of those 2 weeks
so
ago on
excited.
stream. Yeah.
But it was like the last. I got to give this man the last
But
card he needed.
such a good feeling, right?
Such a good feeling.
And
I
he
was like,
was juiced, I
he
bet,
was
because he was
so
not expecting
juiced.
it. Yeah, like he was like, whatever, it's
No,
gonna be a baby shiny or something.
right. And
Yeah.
I opened it. It was the first one I opened on stream and all that. And I got it for him. And he was so appreciative and so happy. And I was like, dude, that just made my week opening. I was so happy that I got to open him the card. Like, it could have been a Mew. I don't know. It was the card. He just was like, I need this card. 2 packs later, I opened it for him. I was like, dude, that was amazing. Like, I don't know if I'll ever get to do that again. That was so much fun.
I don't think people realize that, like, we as middlemen or as people who sell the cards, we like when people pull those cards,
Oh,
when
yeah.
we can connect someone with like a collection piece. Like, if you get a Milotech collector and you're like, he's like, hey man, I've been looking for this Milotech, this reverse Milotech forever, and you're like, hey, I got you, and you can connect them with that. That is that feeling of being able to connect someone with something that they love, that they've been looking for a long time. It's a feeling of satisfaction that I feel very selfish for being able to get out of it. but I don't even need to own these cards to love them and to get the enjoyment. Just passing them through my hands and being able to be a facilitator or being like a conduit for some of these cards, I feel like is almost enough. And so I don't think people realize that. And I know you probably can reciprocate that from what your smile right now. I can tell you feel that way.
So the two types of streams I typically run is I do modern, but then I do run a single stream too. Mm-hmm. And I get these people, they know that I have a large vintage collection. I get these people calling out and I'll say to people, I'll tell my followers, I'm like, listen, you name, because a lot of time they're like, do you have any Scythers? And I'm like, dude, name me a set.
Which Scyther?
What Scyther do you want?
It's like, yes.
But I'll get people that call the weirdest ass Pokemon, and they're like I had this one guy. He's like, "Do you have a reverse holo Lucario from Supreme Victors? I've been chasing this card. I can't find it." And I'm like, "Yeah, actually, yes, I have that card.
Got an extra one right there."
And he got it for like $3. He was so thankful. I was like, "Yeah, bro, I got 2 of them here. You can have one. Sure, I don't care." Yeah. And he wanted it though. It meant so much to him because he was a Lucario collector. Yep. And like you get
like anyone else is just like whatever, it's a set.
Whatever.
But to him, it meant so much.
And that meant something.
Yeah, and it's cool to get that feeling. And you get that with like orders from TCG Player when you have a large enough inventory. You get it from orders from Troll and Toad when you're fulfilling inventories. You get that from a lot of different ways in the hobby as a seller. But there's merit to be said just interacting with these cards. So like people always ask like, how do you do it? How do you sell when you want to? I would want to keep or open all of this. It's like I do want to, and I do open it all, but it's for other people, and I get my enjoyment out of that too, because. And I'm sure you can kind of relate to that, but it's such a wonderful hobby to be involved with, you know?
Absolutely.
Just like every time I sit down and have one of these conversations with a different person in the hobby and we sit back and forth and exchange these stories, it makes me realize again, like why I love this hobby and why it's kept me since I was 8 years old. You know, when I was 8, I was an awkward little nerdy kid, you know, like a lot of people can probably relate who are watching this. And the way that I went up and met people was I went up with my binder.
I've heard you say this.
And I would go up to a group of people I didn't know. I'd say, hey, does anyone want to trade cards? And, you know, half of the people would probably say, yeah. And they'd pull some Pokemon cards and they'd trade with me. So That's for cool. me, it's a very like visceral and nostalgic and important part of my childhood. And I know there's a lot of people who can relate to that. So like, I love having these conversations. Yeah. You know? And I really thank you for coming on. I think
no worries. That was awesome.
Though, so we're probably going to cut it there. So I want to see if there's any more last thoughts you might have. I've went through all of my questions that I wanted to go through today. So I feel good about what we talked about. But yeah, man, I really appreciate your time.
No worries. That's it. I just want to say thank you for having me on. I love doing these talks. It's probably my most fun thing I like to do on YouTube. It's originally while I got back into doing my YouTube channel was because we were all in the lockdown and League wasn't open. And this is the way I get to interact with other people that are in the hobby. I can't just go to League anymore. So like, this is my fun time. This is what I get to do to interact with other people who enjoy it in lots of similar ways. And I do like listening to like people like yourself when you do interview other people, because everyone in this hobby collects in a different way, and it's always neat to hear other people's stories, and I just think what you're doing is awesome. This series is a great series, and I can't wait. I personally can't wait to see who you're going to do next, dude.
Thank you. Yeah, I've got 2 people in the books already that I've talked with them and we've got plans and stuff. But cool. There's going to be some really exciting episodes coming up. So
nice.
I really appreciate you coming on,
Joe.
No
worries, man.
Yeah, thanks again. If you haven't already, go. I'm going to put the link down in the description of Joe's YouTube, EchoBase Collectables. But go find him on Whatnot. Go find him here on YouTube. Find him on IG. But yeah, really great talking with you, man. Like and subscribe here, and we'll see you guys on the next episode of Trainer Profiles here. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Joe.
Later.